For the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk will call the roll, please.
Mayor Jablin.
Here.
Vice Mayor Levy.
Here.
Councilmember Russo.
Here.
Councilmember Primoroso.
Here.
Councilmember Tinsley.
Here.
Well, welcome everybody. We normally don't have so many people in our chambers for a meeting. It's really nice to see this room being utilized to its full extent, and we welcome you all here tonight. We do have a few ground rules that we try and adhere to on the City Council over the years, so we keep decorum. We don't allow clapping, whistling, stamping, yay, 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 because sometimes it gets out of hand. That's the only reason. We understand your exuberance over some of these issues, but we're here to serve you, and if you'll give us an opportunity, we'll listen to you with all of our attention, I promise you. But if we can just keep to those ground rules, I would very much appreciate it. Before we get started, you know, this city is an amazing city. It has a tremendous staff that runs this city. We guys up here set policy, but the people over here, they're our staff, and they do an amazing job, and they're very much like family to all of us. If I sound a little choked up, it's because I just wanted to say that on behalf of the City Council, Jack, I wanted to offer our condolences about your brother. Yeah. And if you don't mind, if we could just have a moment of silence in his memory. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Before we start, by the way, I'd just like to personally thank the men and women of the police and fire department. You know what I've been dealing with. I now know the quality of their service. And the second part of this is I'm here tonight, but I don't know for how long. But I am here, and I'm going to try and stay as long as I can. But, you know, I just wanted to make that statement. So if I do have to leave, and I do leave, it's not because of whatever's coming up on the agenda.
Joe's wife is in the hospital tonight. She's fine, but she is in the hospital, and I fully understand if he has to leave, it's because of that.
Yeah,
so
thank you.
We all hope she's doing well. Send her all our best, please. Okay. First, additions, deletions, and modifications. We have none, so let's move along. Correct?
There's a modification.
Oh, let me have it. Okay. Oh, a modification, Resolution 18, 2015, Donald Ross Village, PUD. The applicant has adjusted the site plan for the drive-through to provide additional stacking above and beyond code. A copy of the memorandum prepared by the staff has been provided to each council member. You all have it on your desk. Okay, if I could have a motion?
Actually, you don't even need one.
I don't need one. It's a modification. Okay.
Second.
Okay. I think we don't need that. Okay, thank you, though. Next is announcements and presentations. The residents from Frenchman's Creek and Frenchman's Reserve regarding all above Florida.
My name is Michael Ferdinandi, and with me tonight.
Is your mic on? Sure.
Hold on, he'll check for you. Just a second.
And if we don't pick it up, it's only because that mic needs to be a little closer to your mouth. That's all. And just name and address for the record, please.
My name is Michael Ferdinandi. I live at 643 Hermitage Circle in Frenchman's Reserve in Palm Beach Gardens. With me here tonight is Jane Feinstein, who's a resident of Frenchman's Creek. And we're appreciative that the council has allowed us to address you regarding All Aboard Florida. Over the past 60 days, there really has been a momentum shift in terms of this project. The opposition is clearly getting traction. And and the impact of the oppositional voice has clearly grown louder. We've seen strong action in Delray Beach, St. Lucie County, Martin County, and Indian River County with two suits filed. In addition, people like John Corners of the Jupiter Medical Center has come out with real concerns about the responders and their ability to get across the rail crossings, given the increasing number of rail traffic with this particular project. And this week, the federal government released some new guidelines on tankers that are carried across our rail lines. The rail carriers will now have to notify the municipality of hazardous materials on the rails. As part of this process, FEC also announced how much hazardous chemicals are carried across these rail lines annually. That number is 380 million gallons of hazardous materials are carried across the rail lines that FEC owns between Miami and Jacksonville. Recently, a polling company, Mason-Dixon Polling and Research, conducted a poll of eligible voters in Martin County and North Palm Beach County. These were the results. 80% of the eligible voters in the poll opposed the All Aboard Florida project. That's 4 out of 5 voters opposed it. 68% strongly opposed it. And there was no offset for any political affiliation. It had no bearing on the results. Even the legislators in Tallahassee are beginning to ask more questions. This week in the Florida Business Journal, there were several quotes from legislators concerning the funding of the railroad and this question: are the taxpayers going to be left holding the bag when and if All Aboard Florida doesn't succeed? So I'd like to turn it over to Jane now, who will cover the specific impact to our community in Palm Beach Gardens.
Thank you, Jane. Just give us your name and address for the record, please. Thank you.
Jane Feinstein, 3666 Toulouse Drive, Palm Beach Gardens.
Thank you. Go ahead.
All right.
Right there. Yeah, perfect. Perfect. Sit down.
Okay.
Easel, right there. Here, I got it.
Thank you. Okay. I know that you all know the facts about All Aboard's proposal, so I won't waste a lot of time on them. 32 passenger trains a day, a doubling of freight trains for more than 50 trains a day. At-grade crossings closed for up to 3 hours a day, and the freight trains will increase in length. Okay, what does this economically questionable project mean for the residents of Palm Beach Gardens? Most importantly, there are safety issues. More closed gate crossings means more and longer waits for everybody, including ambulances, fire trucks, and other emergency responders. Seconds matter in an emergency. Our Palm Beach Gardens EMTs and firefighters are the best, but they can't be effective if they can't get to those who are in need. More freight means more hazardous cargo, as Mike indicated, and greater potential for catastrophic accidents, which will affect large numbers of Palm Beach Gardens residents and businesses in close proximity to the tracks. There are also quality of life issues. Traffic congestion resulting from more closed grade crossings will lengthen residents' and school students' daily commutes and will dampen the patronage of local businesses. Frenchman's Creek and Frenchman's Reserve residents may not be able to get out of their communities. Palm Beach Gardens has distinguished itself from other cities to our south by its careful development planning to ensure free-flowing traffic throughout the city. No city residents, and I'm sure the council, want to compromise that. Noise and vibration will negatively impact residents' ability to sleep. It will physically affect our health and our homes, and therefore the enjoyment of our homes and will in turn diminish our property values. The horns are disruptive now. Can you imagine when there are more than 50 trains? Okay. Now let's talk about funding, specifically about private activity bonds. As you know, All Aboard Florida has requested $1.75 billion with a B dollars in private activity bonds. They have called PAB funding the linchpin of the project. The Department of Transportation has given preliminary approval for the allocation of PABs to All Aboard Florida. However, in doing so, they have violated the rights of our residents under the National Environmental Protection Act. All Aboard Florida prepared a draft environmental impact study on which the public commented. There were more than 12,000 comments submitted because the draft was so flawed. Those comments were to be addressed in a final environmental impact statement before any funding for the project by a public agency was approved. However, the Department of Transportation gave approval for the issuance of private activity bonds without the final environmental impact statement. This improper process sidesteps the National Environmental Protection Act, shortchanging the public, including the residents of Palm Beach Gardens. In addition, in authorizing the PABs for All Aboard Florida, the Department of Transportation incorrectly interpreted a statute meant to fund highways, not railroads. One resident of Palm Beach Gardens, in conjunction with a resident from Jupiter, is in the process of suing the Department of Transportation over these issues and has asked for a preliminary injunction to stop the issuance of the PABs. The private activity bonds must also be approved by the Florida Development Finance Corporation. The FDFC will meet on May 28th for this purpose. In its bond application, All Aboard Florida officials indicate that the bond proceeds will be used in Miami-Dade, Broward, Palm Beach, Brevard, and Orange counties. They claim, and this is very important, to know of no local government unit in those counties that objects to issuing the bonds for the project. No local government opposition. Well, many residents of Palm Beach County do object, specifically residents of Palm Beach Gardens, many of whom are here tonight, from Frenchman's Creek, Frenchman's Reserve, Evergreen, the Isles, the Oaks, and possibly other communities. So what has been the city's role in all of this? The council has written numerous letters to All Aboard Florida and to various government officials. We are extremely grateful for that, and we applaud you. But All Aboard Florida hasn't listened. They appeared before you a few weeks ago, ostensibly to answer your long list of questions about the project. However, there's been no transparency. It was all smoke and mirrors. They didn't answer your questions satisfactorily. That's because their project offers no benefits, only downside risks to the city of Palm Beach Gardens and its residents. So how can the council help? I know I speak for many in the room tonight, and many who couldn't be here but have signed a petition which I will present to you, when I ask you, our elected representatives of Palm Beach Gardens, to speak out on our behalf and formally object to the issuing of FDFC bonds for the All Aboard Florida project. I respectfully ask you for two things. First, a letter to the FDFC as soon as possible, but prior to May 28th, stating that the City of Palm Beach Gardens strenuously objects to the issuing of bonds for the All Aboard Florida project because of the negative impacts to its residents' safety, as well as their health and quality of life, and because the process itself is improper. Your letter should ask the FDFC to deny the bond allocation. Second, I ask you to express your opposition to this harmful project publicly by resolution, and to encourage the towns and cities to our south, whose residents will be similarly affected, to do the same. In conclusion, All Aboard Florida has not been at all forthcoming in answering the council's questions and concerns about the project's impacts on its residents. The All Aboard Florida project offers no benefits to the residents of Palm Beach Gardens, just costs. Please help us to retain the safe, healthy environment and the high quality of life that we currently enjoy as residents in Palm Beach Gardens. There are many Palm Beach Gardens residents here today who join Mike and me in opposing All Aboard Florida and rail expansion and support my request for a letter to the FDFC and a resolution of opposition. I'd ask them to please stand now. Okay.
Wow.
Ready. Thank you very much for allowing us this opportunity to speak before you, and thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Thank you, Michael. That was a very nice presentation.
Mr. Mayor, do you have anyone that wants to speak in favor of All Aboard Florida?
I do. I have what I believe are two.
That want to speak in favor of it?
Yes.
Okay. Because what I'd rather do is, because I believe I've heard enough between residents and this council and so forth, because I think I know the direction that we're in, but I would want to give the people the opportunity that want to speak in favor of it to speak before we discussed, and then I think we might want to bring it up here to a discussion, and then if there are other people that want to speak, we don't want to deny them the right to speak, but if there are other people that want to speak against it, we can then do it after they know basically where we basically are.
Okay. I have 5 comment cards of, I believe, against it, and I believe 2 that are for it. I'm going to ask the 2 that are...
Then it's not that many, and you can listen to them, but I just...
But if, yeah,
But
I think we'll ask the people first.
Yeah, I think before the people that come up
Okay.
and speak against it, I think we should have our discussion.
Okay.
Because I think I know, basically, after having I don't know how many meetings about this, after listening to I don't know how many residents, that I know the way we all feel about this. So rather than waste a lot of time and so forth, but I do want to give the people the opportunity that want to speak in favor of it, because I do want to listen to them before we talk.
Okay. First is Jim Kowalski.
Good evening.
Name and address for the record, Jim.
Jim Kowalski, 408 South 9th Street, Lantana. I am not a Palm Beach Gardens resident, obviously. I come here not to change anyone's opinion, but to try and spread some truth. There is a lot of fear that is spread about this project. And I understand why these people are scared, because people have fed them a bill of goods about what's going to happen. But the facts of the matter, the facts that happen already today, say all these terrible things don't happen. They're worried about EMTs and ambulance access. Just a week or 2 ago, your fire department was on the news, and they said, what is their biggest problem getting to a call? Idiot drivers that won't get out of their way. That is on 100% of their calls. All Aboard Florida will be on a crossing 3% of the time. You're talking 2 trains an hour that will close the crossing for 45 seconds, start to finish. You can scoff all you want, but that is the math. The video shows it. There's no dispute of that. I'm a little pressed, that there was a lot of time for presentation, and I'm quite limited in time here. They brought up the poll that said 80% of the people were against it. That poll that Citizens Against Rail Expansion paid for and conducted is the only poll that shows anything like that. The Not All Aboard people have spent 18 months gathering petition signatures, none of which have been verified or even validated as to where they live. And in 18 months, they've gotten 50,000 signatures, which sounds like a lot, until you realize that's less than 0.25% of the population of the state of Florida. It is less than 0.5% of the population through which this project will pass. And if all of those people lived in the Treasure Coast, which claims to be the heart of the opposition to this project, you're only at 9%. So 91% of the people in the heart of the area where this is going to be a problem, supposedly, have not come out against it. Frenchman's Reserve says, the EMTs won't get to them. They have a fire station right outside their development that they don't have to cross the tracks, and they don't have to cross the tracks to get to the hospital.
You'll get a chance. You get a chance. Go ahead. Go ahead. Mr. Kowalski.
And the benefit for Palm Beach Gardens, I know in the past, this city has come out in support of Tri-Rail. Tri-Rail Coastal Link would love to start running. They have already announced publicly that because of All Aboard Florida, they can start 10 years sooner, and it'll cost the taxpayers $1 billion less of tax money because of the development that All Aboard Florida is putting in.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Ally Soul?
All right. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the Council, City Manager, and City Attorney. My name is Ally Soul, and I'm the Public Affairs Manager for the All Aboard Florida project, and I'm thankful for the opportunity to be here tonight to address you as we were in February 26 with my colleagues. My colleagues and I participated in a workshop on February 26th and subsequently followed up with answers to the outstanding questions that you have. I have copies of that email with the responses with me. We have also continued meeting with your staff to review the 90% plans and finalize grade crossing designs in the city. I am here this evening to assure you and your residents that All Aboard Florida is committed to working with you as partners and developing a system that is safe, convenient, and more importantly, one that offers Palm Beach County and this city the introduction to a regional and commuter rail system. We have participated in many panels, presentations, and meetings in the gardens, and my colleagues and I would also welcome the opportunity to present to Frenchman's Creek and Frenchman's Reserve, the Isles, and any other homeowners association that would be willing to hear what we have to say. We think it's important to hear from both sides and to really hear the facts of the matter. First, I'd like to address that All Aboard Florida is not all about freight. The Palm Beach Post just ran a thoroughly investigative piece about the likelihood of our more than $3 billion investment being a ruse to increase freight on the FEC. And they found out the same thing that we have been saying from day one, that it's not. I have copies of that article here for you. If your council has questions about freight movement, the length of trains, and potential impacts to the city, I encourage you, as we did at the workshop, to reach out to the Florida East Coast Railway directly and to address your questions to them. They have indicated to us that they would be happy to answer those questions. Second, the introduction of our 900-foot trains twice per hour will close crossings for less than 50 seconds each time. That means that All Aboard Florida will add 24 minutes of closure time per day, not 3 hours, which was stated in the presentation that was just shown to you. Third, All Aboard Florida is about moving people, not hazardous materials. And if you have questions or concerns related to the impacts of the materials that are being carried by the freight railroad, I would again encourage you to reach out to them. Fourth, we remain committed to working with the city on its goal to implement quiet zones. As we said in February and continue to maintain, we believe our investment in the grade crossings will cover the vast majority of improvements needed. And if the council requests, we would also work with staff to help run the quiet zone calculator. At the meeting in February, the council again expressed its support for the Tri-Rail Coastal Link project. I was at a meeting with SFRTA Executive Director Jack Stevens earlier this week, and he said before All Aboard Florida was announced, he could see no way forward with moving the Tri-Rail Coastal Link project. After we announced our project, he sees a path to success and a path to implementation. And with that, we look forward to continuing to work with the council and its residents.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who wants to speak for All Aboard Florida or FECR, Florida East Coast Railway, in the audience? Okay. Joe, I think we will bring it up here. I do have 5 more cards that are against it, but let's talk about this first.
I'd rather talk about this and then if they want us to comment to tell us where we're right or wrong.
Right.
But I'd also like to say for the record, Ally, I think you've done a phenomenal job in trying to communicate with the residents. Now, I'm not going to say that it's worked because obviously, okay, with all of the residents here, it didn't get to where I know you wanted it to be. But as far as cooperating, you have been here, you've tried to give us information, you did come in February, and you've made every attempt to do that. On the other side of this is we are going to discuss this tonight, and I think it's time for us to make a decision where we're going here. And we're not going here on a one-night thing with all of these people here. This has been an 18-month process for us where we've listened to the residents. And I think it's now tonight whether we need to decide whether we are going to take their position, okay, or take a different position, because we've tried a long time to try and get the issues out and work with you and so forth, and I think you've done a great job. But obviously, we work for them. I mean, we only have one job to do here, and that's to protect them. They've come in here tonight and they've asked us, please protect us. This is going to impact our quality of life, and so don't be shaking your head. I mean, no, he is. No, I mean, that's your opinion, and I respect your opinion. And there may be an overall good, okay, for all of Florida. I don't see it, I don't understand it, but I represent them, okay, and that's what I have to do. I can't never lose my focus, because they're the ones that put us here, and they're the ones that we work for. I don't work for myself, I work for them. And they're coming here tonight asking us to protect them. And I think we as a council need to have this discussion, and if we're going to do that or not. Whether we agree with all, like I say, I've heard a lot of different things over the time, so I think I know where this council's going. All I'm trying to do is bring it back and try and shortcut it and not create a lot of anxiety amongst this issue. So, Eric, I know you've been the closest to this. You've been involved in I don't know how many meetings. I'm interested in hearing what you have to say.
Well, thank you, Joe. You know, the interesting thing is, Allie, you say you represent all aboard Florida, and you do. And you represent them well. As Joe said, you've been very forthright in coming here and answering questions, and you've done a good job. The problem is, it's not just all aboard Florida. It's the Florida East Coast Railway as well, and that's the freight division. Now, if it was just all aboard Florida, it was just passenger rail, I don't think a lot of people here would be that passionate about their objections, because those are short trains. They don't take that much time, although they do take more time than they do today, because it's just an addition of 32 more trains going across these grade crossings. But it is the freight, and the fact that all aboard Florida is going to double track this right-of-way offers the FECR, the railway, the freight railway, the opportunity to run that many more trains. And that's what the problem is. I've always said, as far as I'm concerned, this is all about the freight. I still maintain that. I don't care what anyone says in the newspaper. I've read lots of different articles in the newspaper, pro, con, neutral, whatever. They've tried to give everybody's point of view. But what I see is a problem, and no pun intended, coming down the track. Maybe it is a pun intended, I don't know. And that's the way I feel, that's the way I've always felt, and I've seen nothing in the presentations that all aboard Florida in particular have made to change my mind. Because when the last time you were here, whenever we talked about the freight, you said, oh, that's our sister company. Remember that? Remember that? All right, I'm not going to get into a dialogue, but that's what was said. And I kept saying, well, where is your sister company? They're not here. They're not here because they don't really want to answer those questions. So with that, David, Marcy, Bert, would you like to weigh in?
You know, it's funny. I teach environmental history of Florida at Palm Beach State College. And do you know what the FEC's name originally was? Flagler's Folly. And the reason why it was called Flagler's Folly, because he lost his shirt trying to bring passenger rail without the competition of roadways and airplanes down to Key West. I mean, he literally lost his shirt. I do not believe that there has been, I've been looking for one, a rail line in the United States since the 1800s that has actually made money, and the ones that did make money made it because of federal subsidies. Now, the railroad is very powerful. As a matter of fact, do you know how much money Flagler paid for all that right-of-way? Zero. The state paid him to take the right-of-way to build the rail line to develop Florida, and it has been an important part of developing Florida. You know, it was the link to West Palm Beach, it was the link to Miami as the railroad came down through Jacksonville and St. Augustine. But, you know, as I've looked at this, you know, I see a $1.75 billion investment. I don't see how they can make money. So they're a private industry. They're not in business to lose money, so they got to be making money somewhere. And I'm going to say where they're going to make money mostly is in the real estate development. and in the freight lines. That's the only place where I can see that they're going to make money. As a matter of fact, I think if All Aboard Florida is built, it will last a maximum of 10 years before they belly up, and we're going to be left with just freight trains and massive development that has gotten density bonuses because of transit-oriented development. Now, we may get Tri-Rail. But I will tell you, when I started in this council in 2004, do you know when Tri-Rail was coming here? It was going to be complete by 2011. 2011, we're going to have Tri-Rail. We've had charrettes, we planned it, and everything else. I'm going to tell you something that to me has just been disingenuous by All Aboard Florida, and that's quiet zones. Because, Eric, you have been fighting for quiet zones for 20 years, and who has been the ones that have stayed in your way? And now all of a sudden they want to do quiet zones? To me, it's a ruse. You know, the big problem with trains isn't the train horns. I'm sorry to get on my soapbox, but the other thing that I find amazingly coincidental is that all of a sudden FEC purchases all of these new cars that have ridiculously loud, maximum as they can go, train horns. So that we're reminded that they can do the quiet zone for us. But the quiet zones aren't the important thing, it's the vibrations from these trains. And I've already had reports from residents that their houses are starting to crack all of a sudden now that they're running the double stacked and the heavier freight trains. And I gotta tell you, there's just too many coincidences here that the Panama Canal Zone is being widened, that there is going to be more of a demand for freight. I don't know, you know, it walks like a duck, it talks like a duck, and it smells like a duck. And I think this is a duck.
Thanks, David. Marcy? Whoa. I told you at the beginning, and I appreciate you here. That's okay. I understand it. He's a very passionate guy. He deserves a hand for that. Anyway, go ahead, Marcy. Go ahead.
Leave it to David to get a history lesson. Thank you. I appreciate that.
At least I didn't start 4.5 billion years ago.
She could have, believe me.
He's a geologist, too, so that's his thing.
I'm not going to repeat what you said, although I absolutely agree with what you both said so far. I do want to say, in response to the EMS comments made on both sides, I live actually on the west side of the tracks, and my fire station is exactly at the Frenchman's Reserve Fire Station, which is the east side of the tracks. So if something were to happen to me, and there is a likelihood of something happening in our neighborhood, our response time will be decreased because of that with the amount of trains. So we can't say maybe that wouldn't happen elsewhere, but in my neck of the woods and in your neck of the woods, obviously it will. I can also say that for the last year and a half, I should say, or longer, I've received numerous, I can't even count the emails against All Aboard Florida. I've not received one for it. I'm also on the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council, and as a board member there, or as a council member there, I've seen and heard many speak opposing All Aboard Florida for many of the reasons that you're stating, many of the reasons that that have been stated here on this council. And Allie, you've done a good job here on the workshop. I agree with what Joe had said, but there are still unanswered questions, and there is a fear of the unknown, and there's a cost associated with those unanswered questions. Sorry. We talk about sealed corridors, but yet there's no sections for sealed corridors, and these are the things that that we still aren't sure about. FEC, we're talking about FEC and the train horns, which we're understanding. We did speak to them. We have contacted them, and because we've contacted them, we learned that the new locomotives' horns are programmed to the higher decibel level, and the old locomotive horns had or used the range, the lower end of the range of the decibel range of the horn, which was 90 to 116 decibels. Was 90, now it's more like 116. And we were told it isn't louder, it's just the wind, it's just the winter and your windows are open. We've heard everything, but they are louder. I know they're louder. I listen to it every day. I have for the last 10 years since I've lived adjacent to the tracks, and they are louder. And these are the frustrating things that we are dealing with as a whole, all of us, not just you guys and not just us, but all as a community. And I see a benefit for All Aboard Florida in West Palm Beach and South. I can see even possible increases in property values West Palm Beach and South, because that's where the stops are. That's where the transit station, and like David was mentioning. But I see no benefit here in Palm Beach Gardens. They're just traversing our area to get from point A to point B. So I only see the negative in our area. So I do agree, and that's pretty much what I want to say in regards to this.
Good job, Marcy. Thank you. Bert.
It's nice sitting between these two guys because I just kind of agree one way or the other what they say, so I don't have to say much. But All Aboard Florida, Ally, I think you've done a good job as well representing that sort of business that is looking to move into the area and do some things. And like Joe said, it's all just coming down to cargo now. That's all what people talk about is the cargo and the freight. And maybe that is your sister company and you don't have an issue or can present or talk about that, and that's fine. I mean, I understand it. But as far as the residents are concerned, the cargo is the issue. And maybe the second train, the second line will be built better. Maybe the trains won't vibrate as much, but you're still going to have the other line in place where if cargo's trains are expanded or go back to where they were 10 years ago, where maybe there was 24 or so a day, whatever the number was, that's something you're always going to have to deal with in terms of selling All Aboard Florida, because people are going to go back to the cargo and that's all they want to talk about. So I think Joe said it perfectly. I mean, we try to represent the residents. They're basically our bosses in the way that we do business here, and we understand your concerns, and hopefully there's a solution. I don't know. That's for the months to come. Whether they get the financing and move forward, that's certainly going to be their decision. But we'll do what we can to protect the residents of this city and talk about quiet zones, and I'll do all the things that we can if we have to upgrade as these trains come through our city if it were to happen. But we just have to be respectful of what your concerns are, and we're going to follow through and make sure we can protect them as best we can. So that's my thought. Yeah.
Thank you, Bert. Okay. Well, you've heard our comments. I do have...
Mr. Mayor, let me just complete one thing, because, Ally, I think we're going to do what we're going to do. But the one thing I don't think you did, and you made great presentations, I think the only way we'll ever get anybody to buy into this is if there's some way that you can limit the freight and protect the people, similar to what we do in development approvals. I know that the train business isn't good at that. You know, they don't need to be doing that. I mean, but in order for you to if you really want to build community support, they already have trains. Okay, they just don't want any more. And I think that's where, okay, that's the only place you can go to make anybody feel any better. And if whatever happens, and you want to go back, I think that's really what you need to be doing. And I also think, to tell you, and I'm not being, let's say, Palm Beach Gardens because it's, you know, protecting. I think it makes a lot of sense between Miami to Fort Lauderdale to West Palm Beach. I think there's a lot of business in all those hubs. But to be honest, I don't think it makes any sense passenger West Palm Beach to Orlando, so forth. Mr. Mayor, what I want to do is incorporate Jane's comments in a motion that we're going to do. I think what we want to do is we want to do a letter.
Yes.
Okay, immediately. We want to do a resolution, which I believe we'll put on the next council meeting, and they also wanted us to send our proposed resolution to other cities,
yes,
or maybe after we adopt it. So I'm in favor of doing all of that.
They say, though, that there was a deadline?
No, the letter we're going to get out. The letter, that's why we're going to do the letter. That's why we're going to do the letter.
The letter right now, so that comes for the May 28th deadline for the...
Well, I think that's where we're going here, so then...
The FCC.
Now if you want to ask the others if they still...
Yeah, well, in the interest of fairness, I do have 5 more. Let me call the names, and if you want to come up and say something, please do. You have 3 minutes to do it. Bertha Maddox? Just tell us, do you want to talk or not? You do? Come on. Name and address for the record, Bertha.
Bertha Maddox, 910 Magdalena Road.
Into the microphone, Bertha. Thank
Bertha
you.
Maddox, 910 Magdalena Road, Palm Beach Gardens, Florida. And a lot of what I'm going to say, you guys have repeated. I want to thank you. I want you guys to finally make a strong resolution and write to the FDFC or set aside monies, as many other counties have done, to fight all aboard. They said that they will be a good neighbor. Well, I've yet to see anything good. Privately funded, they're not. They're using everybody else's money. They're not their own. All Aboard is not FEC. Yes, they are. They're under the same umbrella. All Aboard is not about freight. Well, FEC does not have to pay to add the tracks back. So FEC will benefit from All Aboard, and they are owned by Fortress. They gave the West Palm Beach mayor the impression a pedestrian street bridge will be built. The town had to battle and surrender $4 million in tax credits and approve a high-rise condo to get that street. They say they will do, they say they will build, but they've left out who will pay. Proof alone was, Mayor, in a previous meeting, you had to sort of push the truth out for them. They've left this town meeting thinking they would be responsible, totally, but ultimately they stated the town will pay. Trains will be 90 seconds, who cares? They're increasing freight to 2 to 3 miles long, double stacking them with flammables. We will be stopped by the freight as All Aboard does go by in their 60 seconds, especially with their double tracks. They're borrowing from Peter to pay Paul, and we're going to have to pay. So what I was asking is what you guys are going to do. This council needs to look at All Aboard as a profiler would look at them in criminal and big business. How do they think? What are they after? How do they damage us? How can we protect our residents? A good portion of Palm Beach Gardens is within 500 feet from the tracks. I'm asking you all, please do not take anything they say at face value. We do not want an additional 32 trains ruining our quality of life. They are bringing back Flagler's Dream well. They're bringing back the part of what the railroad bought in the 1800s, in my opinion. Snake oil salesmen. They make everything sound good and beneficial, but if you look past the surface, it will be a detriment to our town. Have they offered to build sound walls at their expense? Have they said they will do something to prevent property values from going down? The entire project is about Fortress making money off of real estate, and then they will sell the entire project, and we will be their collateral damage. You would not allow a neighbor that was a hazard to your safety and welfare and who was noisy continue. Why would you permit this? I implore you to stop procrastinating, write the resolution, and write FDFC. Thank you.
Thank you, Bertha. Thank you. Okay, no clapping, no clapping, no clapping, no clapping. Okay. Denise Trochel? Denise, do you want to speak? Okay. Name and address for the record, Denise. Did I pronounce your name right?
My name is Denise Trushell. I live at 904 Magdalena in the Isles. I moved here last July from Washington, D.C., and thinking this was going to be my forever home, and not knowing about All Aboard Florida. Didn't realize that at night I was going to be woken up numerous times from the trains, the horns, the vibration, my house and my furniture, and my dishes actually shake, as many of the other Isles residents do. I'm against the freight trains, and I'm also against more trains, whether they're passenger or not. We don't need any more vibrations. We don't need more noise, and we just want to live quietly in our homes and forever. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. Thank you. Gina, come on up, Gina. You pronounce it for me.
I will.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Gina Cerise. I live at 902 Magdalena in the Isles. I did attend the meeting on February 26th, 10 weeks ago, where people were pointing fingers. I don't believe you guys got any numbers as to what it would cost to make the quiet zones, and that's a blank check to FEC. You guys can't do business that way. There's no way to get an estimate. So it's, if we want them, we'll pay whatever they want, and that's not fair to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Laura Henning. Laura, you here? Do you want to speak, Laura? Well, come on up.
I'm really concerned about the people who live near the tracks.
Okay. Laura, name and address for the record.
Laura Henning, 2460 Seven Oaks Lane, Palm Beach Gardens.
If you can lean into the microphone a little bit.
Okay.
We need a higher microphone.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. I just want them to hear you, that's all.
Okay, thank you. 32 trains tearing through our neighborhoods at 110 miles per hour every day is bad enough. An article from the June 2014 Palm Beach Post discussed the possibility of 64 trains daily if All Aboard is, quote, a success. Imagine what life will be like living up close and personal with All Aboard. Will the delicate glass greenhouses at the North Lake Crossing survive the vibration of a behemoth hurtling by at 110 miles per hour just yards away? And how about the old brick walls of a nearby costume shop? Furthermore, management and customers of the nearby new Mercedes-Benz dealership on alternative A1A will just love the ear-splitting whine of the bullet trains twice an hour. I also can't imagine the elderly gentleman who runs a produce stand at the Richard Road crossing will be able to stay in business. And as the soft-spoken young receptionist of a ballet school on a narrow street running parallel to the tracks said, "We don't want that train here." Neither does the director of a tutoring service in the public shopping center on Hood Road adjacent to the tracks, where silence is golden for the students. Nor are the residents of the Attract Gardens East condo community on alternate A1A just across the street from the tracks joyously anticipating the twice-an-hour disruption in their lives, especially on weekends when they are home all day long. There are also owners of modest houses who have tracks bordering their backyards. I can't imagine how they will be able to stay in their homes with a 110-mile-per-hour train assaulting their ears 32 times a day. These folks are just a few of the thousands of people who live along the tracks from Orlando to Miami. Their lives and fortunes will be adversely affected by All Aboard Florida, and residents of Palm Beach Gardens will not be an exception. This sleek, shiny 21st century bullet train looks pretty in the commercials, but it will bring a marked degradation in the quality of life of this fair city. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Okay, I have a couple more, and that's, well, firstly, Lorraine Dubay. I don't know if she's here or not, but she didn't want to speak. She only wanted to record her objection to more trains on the rails, passenger or freight. And one more is Corey Hanlon. Corey, would you like to speak?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Just real briefly, I'm not going to go into everything that everybody else is
Name and
going
address
into.
for the record.
Yes, sir.
Please.
Corey Hanlon, 4365 Hickory Drive.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm a taxpayer, a supporter of Care Florida, and a concerned citizen of Palm Beach Gardens. Long story short, neighboring towns and counties have set aside millions of dollars to protect their communities and its residents in the fight to stop All Aboard Florida. What is our city going to do to protect its citizens? I'm asking you, the elected officials that are here to protect us in our wonderful city, to step up and at all costs stop All Aboard Florida in its tracks. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, that's all I have. Let's bring it up here and decide what we're going to do. I have a pretty good idea, but if someone wants to make a motion or a consensus.
No, I didn't. I move that the mayor be directed to send the letter as per the presentation of the residents tonight to the
FDFC, the Florida Department of Finance Corporation.
Opposing the bonds.
Opposing the bonds, along with preparing a resolution for the next meeting opposing the All Aboard project. And later, after that resolution is passed, to forward that to other cities, telling them we did that and recommending that they should. As per, I believe that is everything they've asked us to do.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
It's moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Passes 5-0. Thank you all. Thank you for your patience. You're more than welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting. We haven't had a good audience like this in a long time. But we're going to take a little recess while you're leaving, okay? Thank you. Bring to order, please. Thank you. Can we have some quiet? Thank you. Okay, next are announcements and presentations. Legislative update by Representative Patrick Rooney. Pat?
How are you, Mayor?
And by the way, let me acknowledge that former Representative Carl Domino is in the audience. Carl, thank you for being here.
He can't get enough of this.
Well,
Mayor and council members, I appreciate the opportunity to make a presentation. I think this is the first time in a few years. Usually our schedules don't end up working out, so I'm not glad that I'm here per se, because we should have been getting our business done in Tallahassee, but be that as it may, I'm glad to be here tonight. What I thought I would do is give you a quick update on what's going on up in Tallahassee, and then what we were able to accomplish, and then some of the things particular to Palm Beach Gardens, and then just a couple of things that I was working on up there. As you might have heard if you read the paper, we ended our session about 3 days early in the House, and the Senate was a couple days early. There's been a disagreement on Medicaid expansion up in the legislature, and we just could not come to an agreement on that. And the House Speaker on last Tuesday decided that we were not making progress on the budget, so it's best to kind of hit the reset button. As of right now, we're going to go back up June the 1st till June the 20th to figure out what we're going to do with the budget. That's our one constitutionally mandated item that we have to do. So we've given ourselves 3 weeks to look at that. The good news is a lot of things, aside from the Medicaid expansion issue, kind of have been decided, or at least have already been worked on. So I want to anticipate, if we can get that issue resolved, and that's not a small issue, but if we can get that resolved, the process should not take the 3 weeks. It should take probably a week and a half at the most. So what I thought I'd do is give you a little update on where we are with at least the House budget, and then get into some specific items, policy type items that we did get a chance to pass. Our budget in the House is about $76.2 billion, including $3.1 billion going into reserves. Our budget included $185 million in economic development funding. With these resources, about $74 million would be provided to Visit Florida in an effort to promote the state's tourism industry. $19.5 million provided to Space Florida to further bolster the space and aerospace industry. Current year funding level maintained for Enterprise Florida's export program and Florida Sports Foundation grant program. Environmentally, we had about $205 million designated for Florida Forever. Everglades restoration at about $132 million. Northern Everglades and estuaries receiving about $34.9 million, and Springs restoration about $15 million. In the healthcare realm, which is almost a third of our budget, about $30.2 billion. Additional funding added to continue to reduce waitlist clients for elderly long-term care Medicaid waiver program. Efforts were made to increase adoptions in Florida through different incentive programs, and the budget provided $11.9 million for anticipated increase of 3,000 new adoptions. Education, another big part of our budget, about $21.1 billion for education. The House budget of over $14 billion increased per student funding for K-12 by 3.11%, or about $214.75 per student. There was also an increase in state funding for the state university system of about $141 million, not including tuition revenue. Now, some of the bills that were passed before we kind of ended things. Sober homes was a big one. We've been working on that really for the entire 5 years that I've been up there. We were able to get a bill, Bill Hager, who's just to the south of us, who was working on this, able to get a bill that establishes a voluntary certification program for recovery residences and recovery residence administrators. The bill establishes criteria that DCF is to use when selecting a credentialing entity. Basically, it does not regulate quite to the extent that we want to have these homes regulated, but I think we've talked about this in the past, that there are housing authority requirements. There's also some ADA requirements that we have to be cognizant of to make sure what we're doing is constitutional. So this at least gives a framework for those legitimate sober homes to go to a registry voluntarily, but if you're legitimate, you shouldn't have a problem doing that. So the folks that do want to avail themselves of a sober home know that they're going to get a legitimate sober home, and not just a lot of these fly-by-night sober homes that have been popping up so recently and in such numbers that it's affect a lot of our local real estate values. Local pensions, this was another issue that's been percolating for quite some time. We were able to get a local pension bill. Without getting into too many of the details, it changes some of the minimum benefits to include 2.75% annual accrual, up from the current 2%, and new plans are created after July 1st that must meet new minimums and 50% of taxes used for defined benefit, 50% for defined contribution. So it tackles some of those 175, 185 problems that a lot of local governments have been dealing with, and that's been sent to the governor. Education accountability. We listen to a lot of our constituents that complain about too much testing going on by the state. We've reduced a couple of the tests. There's still some more, I think, that are going to be worked on for the upcoming next session. We also allowed the school districts to start a little earlier if they wanted to, again, so that kids wouldn't be going through their I'm going to say their Christmas break, their holiday break, and then taking tests after that. It could go as early as August the 10th, but I believe Palm Beach County schools are going to go to August 17th to start. Adoption, I mentioned that a little bit before. We were able to get through a bill that helps state employees who want to adopt, gives them some benefits to do that, again, to encourage adoption. One of the other items, a lot of folks are getting into the craft beer brewing industry, and we were able to pass the growler bill, which, again, for whatever reason, has been highly controversial. You can buy beer in 32 ounces, and you can buy it in 128 ounces, but you cannot buy it in 64 ounces. You're going to be able to do that, assuming the governor signs that. Again, I've got more emails on this growler bill than all aboard Florida, so that should tell you something. The Public Service Commission, this again establishes some term limits on the members of the PCS, authorizes the governor to remove from office a commissioner that has violated the law, requires some of the PSC to place on its website recordings of each meeting. It gives more transparency to the Utilities Commission. Some of the things specific to Palm Beach Gardens, their legislative priorities, the business tax receipts, which you all wanted to oppose. No bills were filed this year, so no worries on that one. Communication services tax, that was filed, but nothing passed with that. And then the effective notice electronic advertising, which government entities must publish public notices via print. No bills were filed on that, but again, that usually comes up every year in some form. I think you'll see something dealing with that next year. The newspapers usually oppose that, but that shouldn't be an issue for the coming years. Yeah, a little money involved in that one. So with some of the money issues that for Palm Beach Gardens, the good news is the House included virtually everything that I think you all asked for. The Florida Recreational Development Assistance Program for City Park Phase 3, that's included $200,000 in the House budget. The Florida Recreational Development Assistance Program City Park Phase 4, again $200,000, that's included in the House. In the stormwater system reconstruction project, $750,000 included into the House Water Projects budget, and that was also one of my priorities, working with Matt Forrest and Todd Bonlaren up there to get that one included. And then the EPDOT pedestrian crossing enhancement program, still working on that, but I believe that one can get included into the budget as well. I did want to mention real quick, I had 3 bills up this year. One dealt with employment opportunities for folks with disabilities, basically trying to get the agencies that deal with people with disabilities, specifically those that are getting close to aging out of the system, to work together a little bit better in terms of coordination, to make sure that nobody falls through the cracks and we get folks that can work jobs if they are available. One dealing with veterans discounts on like our Tri-Rail, our municipal parks, those types of things. That was another bill that I dealt with. And then I was also doing a bill on Bright Futures, where we were working with the school board and the Economic Council to allow students to get some credit if they wanted to do like a internship type thing for a business as opposed to community service. All 3 of those bills died. They did not, they're all good bills. They all would have easily passed in a normal session, but we did not get them. We got them off the floor, but not through the Senate. One bill that I did get done, a local bill dealing with school advertisements on ball fields for businesses. That one got passed. That's going to be to the governor, and I also was in charge of the DOT package this year. That's still in limbo right now. We're waiting to see what happens with that in the special session. it's been, every year is different up there. Every year is its own unique set of circumstances. This one was unique in and of itself just because we ended much earlier than normal. I'm hopeful that we're going to be able to get something done in June and get it done quickly, so you're not spending taxpayer dollars to send us up there for a long period of time. But hopefully, we will get the Medicaid expansion issue rectified and be able to go into next session, much like we did with this session, with over $1 billion in new money that we can spend on things or put in reserves or whatever the higher ups want to do with it. But the good news is the state is in fairly good shape, and tourism's up, and I foresee that trend to continue next year. So with that, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to try and answer.
Any questions?
Yeah, just a very specific, the water project you mentioned, that's the C-17 project?
I believe is that the C-17? I think it is,
that's
yeah.
the one.
And
that's the one we
just real quick, David, that I told the chair of the environmental committee that's one of my big priorities. So,
okay, thank you so much for your support on that project.
Absolutely, happy to try and get it done, and I think it will get done once we get through some of this other stuff.
Do you think the sober home process will continue to evolve? I mean, at the federal level, they make some decisions where we can, because we've had people in here before about coming into neighborhoods, not being regulated, licensed, and I know you have a voluntary thing now, which is great, but that will stay on the front burner, hopefully, to get some regulation with that down the road?
Absolutely, Bert. I think it's just what you characterize. It's evolving. I don't think this is the final stop. We need to keep figuring out ways to make sure that the people know who is moving into their neighborhoods. Right. And I'm not trying to discourage legitimate sober homes. It's just when you have some of these, especially the nefarious ones that are moving in just trying to make as much money as they can, and it ruins the structure of a lot of good neighborhoods. And that's, you're taking somebody that is in need of help and you're exploiting them for your own good, and that's not going to help anybody, and it, like I said, it does not help our neighborhood. So absolutely, I think this is not something that this is it and we're going to just move on from it. It's going to be evolving.
Great, thanks, Pat. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Pat, I just wanted to thank you for something you didn't mention, but all the economic development projects that you participate in. I mean, the United Technologies in our city, that's going to change the landscape. And what you just said, how great financial condition the state of Florida is in, it's because of items like that. So I just wanted to thank you and the state's always there for us, and I know when we call you, you're there for us. I just want to thank you for that, because that's very important.
Thanks, Joe. I appreciate that.
I think we all feel that way. Thank you so much.
Well, we know Pat's there for us. I'm not sure about the rest of the state.
Most of them are there for the right reasons. But listen, I really appreciate the opportunity to address you guys. And as you know, Andrew, my legislative assistant, we're right down the street with our office, and Sherry Healy. So anything we can do, just let us know.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, next is, let's give him a hand, He's done a great job. We break our own rules. For him, why not? Absolutely. We suspend the rule. Okay, next is items of resident interest.
In your audit, don't forget the most important thing in the audit.
Oh, the audit. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see.
Now, here's the man we need to clap
for. You're up.
Alan, we're going to put him on the audit committee with you next year. We're going to get him going on that.
All right. I don't think there'll be any clapping for this, I'm sure.
Why not?
I don't know. I think it's something to clap for.
We do have a really good audit report to present tonight. For the record, Alan Owens, Finance Administrator. And we're pleased to present the fiscal year 2014 annual audit report to you, a copy of which was distributed electronically a week ago. And after tonight's meeting, we will post the report online. So, first of all, I would like to recognize and thank Sean O'Brien, CPA with the Finance Department. He is the individual primarily, almost solely, that coordinates the annual audit and prepares the comprehensive annual financial report that is reviewed by our external auditors. Our auditors this year was the firm Markham LLP. This was the first year of our engagement with Markham LLP. And we were very pleased with the professionalism and responsiveness of the firm. And here tonight, we have a representative of that firm, Audit Manager Mr. Enrique Lorena, to present the results of their audit and their findings. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Enrique.
Thank you very much and good evening. For the record, my name is Enrique Llerena and I served as the audit manager on the engagement. I'd like to start with a thank you. Alan, Sean, and their team, they did an excellent job providing us the information that we needed, and they were extremely helpful throughout the process. In the CAFR, there are very few portions of this report that actually belong to us. I'm here to go over our reports, and they actually start on page 1. On page 1 of the CAFR, you'll see the independent auditor's report. On this report, it begins by noting to the reader the items that we actually audited. It follows by describing management's responsibility and then the auditor's responsibility. The most important paragraph is actually on page 2 that talks about our opinion, and here you see an example of an unmodified opinion, and that's the only opinion you would like on a set of financial statements you're associated with. From pages 4 of the document through pages 16, you have management's discussion and analysis. If there's one section of this document that you read, it should definitely be this. It presents the financial results of the city compared to the prior year, and also a narrative from management as to why those results occurred. I want to highlight a couple numbers beginning on page 17. Here you see the total net position for the governmental activities, which is the operations of the city on a full accrual basis, and you see total net position of $117.2 million. That compares to $110.3 million the year before, which is an increase of about $6.8 million. And on page 19, which is a governmental funds balance sheet, you'll find the results of the operations of the general fund, and you see total fund balances there of $38.6 million compared to $34.7 million the year before. This is an increase of $3.8 million, which reflects to the reader that the city's operational decisions are being done in a financially sound way. On page 125 of this document, you'll find our independent auditor's report on internal control over financial reporting and on compliance and other matters based on an audit of financial statements performed in accordance with government auditing standards. This report is commonly referred to as the Yellow Book report, and here you would see, in the event that there were any findings associated with internal control over financial reporting or on compliance related to the financial statements. And I'm pleased to note that there were no findings to bring to your attention. The next 3 pages, you see the management letter in accordance with the rules of the Auditor General, and there's one new report for this year, which is the Independent Accountant's Report on Compliance pursuant to Section 218.415 of Florida statutes. In the past, this additional report in the back was included as actually one of the bullet points in the management letter, but due to new requirements this year, it's required to be presented as a separate report. On these 3 pages, we will bring to your attention any recommendations for improvement that we would have identified during the course of our audit. I'm pleased to note that we do not have any items that we need to bring to your attention as a recommendation for improvement at this time. The last item that I'm going to go over is a communication to those charged with governance, which was an additional letter that was distributed with the CAFR at conclusion of the audit. And here we have an opportunity, again, if there were any findings throughout the audit, to highlight them to the individuals charged with governance, and also to disclose to you any disagreements with management. And as I started with at the beginning of our presentation, there were no disagreements with management. It was actually a pleasure working with Alan and his team, and we're very thankful for the opportunity to serve the city as your external auditors.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, are you in any way related to Alan? Because to not have any management letter comments is awesome. Alan, now I have to congratulate you and your team. That's incredible not to have any management letter items. That's awesome.
In all fairness to Alan, I don't think we've had one in the last 10 years. Something like that. It was a minor one.
He's lost track.
I don't know. You know what?
One. Yeah, he can't remember.
I think there might have been a few more than that. And being an accountant, trust me, they try and find anything. You know, like well, you know, you don't dot the I's properly. You know, I mean,
I can tell you that management here is very proactive and is very forthcoming with any questions, and they want to ensure the CAFR contains everything, which that's not the same environment we find in all the clients that I deal with. So it definitely was a pleasure working with the city.
Well, great.
Let's put you on the spot. Are we your favorite client?
Well, this is the first year, and I think I've had 14 angry people if I make a statement, so I have to not be able to say that.
That's a good point to mention, too, for the audience, is we switched audit firms this year. So Markham, this is the first year they've done the audit for us after having another firm, I think, for 5 years. So we try to change it up a little bit, and this was a good thing that happened. And obviously, you've come in and looked at things maybe a little bit differently of how we do business and found nothing to report on. So that's impressive. So we're glad you're here. We look forward to working with you going forward.
Just to add what Bert said, we do that on purpose so that,
Balances. Yeah. We don't get too comfortable.
Exactly.
With, exactly. Great job, guys. Thank you, Alan.
Thank you.
Thank you, staff. You did a fabulous job. And thank you so much for your report. Appreciate it. Okay. Next is items of resident interest and board and committee reports. David, I'll start with you.
well, we do have something to clap over. I only have one item.
Okay. Have at it.
No, even more fun, the C-51 Basin. The Environmental Committee of the Palm Beach County League of Cities met, and we were discussing the C-51 Basin, and the C-51 Basin Governance and Finance Committee wants government entities to prepare a resolution in support of the C-51 being built and used as a alternate water supply. I have received the copy that has been drafted or remarked up by the League of Cities Environmental Committee. We had a discussion on that, which I'm going to forward to the city manager. But before that, there are really two sections of it. One is to discuss the benefits of the additional water allocation by taking water from going out to sea and basically bringing it so that it can be sent through the Lake Worth Drainage District towards the south, ultimately going to Broward County. How they do the jump over the Hillsborough River, I don't know. But there's another section of it which I think that the city is interested in, and that's the benefit of taking the fresh water and the sediments that fresh water would be depositing into the Lake Worth lagoon, and keeping that from being discharged, which damages the lagoon, also damages seagrasses and other things, which is a detriment to our tourist business. And being that we have a city that has so many hotels, I think that anything that hurts the tourism business hurts the city of Palm Beach Gardens. So what I'm going to ask staff to do, with your permission, is forward the resolution to staff and ask them to tailor it so that it discusses the part about the environmental benefits, which benefit the city, but does not discuss the water allocation benefits, which the waters go in the opposite direction. We're never going to get a benefit from that. But there is definitely a benefit to Palm Beach County and the state of Florida if we stop water from going to tide, which is basically going to the ocean. Okay? Yeah, I got everybody just nod.
Yeah, we're not.
Okay.
Yeah, let the record reflect we're not. Oh, we have a camera back there, they know. Okay, but Marcy.
Okay, I'll try to be very quick because I have a lot to say at the end of the meeting, but this month I attended the North County Intergovernmental Committee. I can't speak too quickly because I'll stutter apparently. We learned that FAU is adding a STEM program to the North Campus to provide synergy between the local biotech science, education, and in education to the north end. We heard a presentation on the North County Airport request to expand their runway to 6,000 feet from the existing or current 4,300 feet. They provided us with some very interesting maps which showed the flight path of every airplane that has landed and taken off over our city, which I found very interesting, actually. We heard that the MPO and the Palm Beach counties did start the process of quiet zones, which I'm very pleased to hear. They are using their quiet zone calculator, which measures the infrastructure needed West Palm North. And finally, the county is working to pass a floating structure ordinance due to the rising issue in anchoring and mooring on the non-water dependent structures and unregulated floating structures. I also attended Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council, where we passed a resolution in support of the Florida Turbine Initiative and investing in manufacturing communities partnership designation with Energy Florida, which is an industry-led nonprofit creating partnership with technology-based companies with enough support, and if the designation is approved by the state, anyone in this particular area can apply for federal and economic development grants, which is important in our area because we do have a lot of that type of industry here in the North End. As an aside, 277, putting this out for you, David, turbine patents have been issued in our state. Energy Florida, as you know, is developing a task force to develop infrastructure framework to tailor the investment groups and increase job creation for future turbine industries in our area. And the growth management bill, which some of us have been following, which was House Bill 873 and Senate Bill 484, has now changed, I think they do this to confuse us, to House Bill 933 and Senate Bill 1213. We also, just earlier before this council meeting, did a very quick ribbon cutting of our artistic bus shelter a few minutes ago, and I am very pleased and thankful to finally see the efforts of everybody's very hard work. I want to throw out a big thank you to staff for making this happen, because I know it was a lot of effort that took place to get the one and every other that's going to occur in our city. Although beautiful, functional art, it does take a lot of work, and I really appreciate it. I'm very excited to see these pop up throughout our city.
Let me stop you right here, because you can't do this, but we'd like to thank you for your effort bringing this forward.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate it. And
You
it's
can't
my
thank
pleasure.
yourself. So
It's my pleasure.
I think the rest of
It's for
us
everybody else.
will thank you for your efforts, right?
Well, thank you.
Can I get a nod on that?
And she was the only one that could have done it, because every one of us did it before and it didn't work. So thank you. You know, a lot of times we won't bring something up again when it didn't work first. You brought it up, it needed to be done, and it worked. So thank you.
Thank you, and you're very welcome.
Let the record reflect that that's not taxpayer money that's going into
No,
that.
it's Art in Public Places funding, and which is I appreciate that fact as well.
Did a
Thank
great
you.
job. Thanks, Mark.
And last but not least at all of the rights of women, the greatest is to be a mother. So I want to thank all the mothers out there and wish everybody, all the moms, a very happy Mother's Day. Thank you.
You know, again, that was my whole report, your last sentence. Because the Honda report I'll have for the next meeting, our biotech overlay committee meeting was canceled because there wasn't any business. So the only thing I had was to wish all the moms a happy Mother's Day, so I'm going to be the second to do it. And as we all know, that's the toughest job in America, to be a mom. And for all us people that had moms, and we thank our moms. And in fact, that's why I got the pink tie on tonight, in memory of my mom, who died of breast cancer. And let's hope someday they get a cure for it, because we're losing too many by that. So,
Thank you.
Okay. Bert, go ahead.
Also, happy Mother's Day as well to everyone, all the women out there. In terms of events, I just wanted to thank staff for their work on the Buckley Golf Tournament last Saturday at our municipal golf course. Joe, Eric, and I played out there, and again, it was a sellout and a great tournament for a great cause, and we certainly appreciate what staff does to accommodate them for the day in putting that on. So thank you for everybody who helps make that a real community event, which which goes on every year, unfortunately for a sad cause, but something good's coming out of it year by year, so we appreciate staff's effort. And I saw Mr. Buckley here earlier. I'm not sure if he
there?
If he left. I think he might have left.
Did he leave?
Yeah.
Maybe he's outside.
So, okay. Just one of the couple of things, I want to congratulate all the graduating seniors from Palm Beach Gardens High School and Dwyer High School who will be graduating in the coming weeks. Palm Beach Gardens graduation is Friday, the 15th, 4 o'clock, and Marcy's daughter, Samara, will be graduating high school. So you'll be an empty nester pretty soon, so congratulations to you. And Dwyer is on the 19th. I'm not sure what time, but all at the conventions, fairgrounds. At the fairgrounds. So congratulations to the 1,000-plus kids that will be working their way out of high school and off to college and other endeavors. Also, I just want to publicly thank Pat Rooney for the C-17 canal money. David and I were up there a couple months ago during Palm Beach County Gates to talk about some of the projects in our city. And, $750,000 doesn't sound like a lot in a budget of $76 billion, but certainly Pat took the idea and ran with it, and got some other sponsors in the area to support us on that. So hopefully that money will come to fruition. And instead of coming out of our pocket, will come from the state to do some work on that canal for us. So thanks to Representative Rooney for doing that.
Yeah, and Bert, that canal benefits this entire area.
Yeah, which is
not just us.
And Senator Abruzzo, I think, had met with us as well. So it's just not Pat. There's a team of guys or girls that get together and talk about these things. And they were kind enough to meet with David and I that day and then move forward with requesting that funding. So hopefully that, will come to fruition and help us out. So we appreciate that. And then next Saturday, Palm Beach Gardens will have their annual Magnet Golf Tournament at Abacoa. I don't know why it's not at Gardens. They're going to somehow got to change that, but they have it at Abacoa every year, raising money for the magnet programs for the high school. So that's always a nice event, sold out, and for a good cause. So we'll look forward to playing in that. Sherry, are you available next Saturday to play? Maybe can you help me out? Can you get a day off from your boss?
Gardens Cup is next week.
Oh, that's right. All right, I'll have to get more ringers. I'm sorry. I'd like to win that if I can. So,
Bert, you want me?
No. Appreciate the offer, though. Thanks.
Sorry, David.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. Also, let me mention that City Manager Ron Ferris and I met with Nick Uren, who's the MPO Executive Director, a couple of weeks ago. We talked about quiet zones, and if you remember, in the past, we wondered why the West Palm Beach South was getting all that money for quiet zones. Well, he's agreed that MPO will find the money to fund quiet zones north of West Palm Beach should this happen. So you should know that. Okay, and congratulations to Samara flipping the tassel, and
Thank you.
send her our best and send her our love, really.
Thank you.
Okay, and happy Mother's Day to everybody, all the mothers everywhere, past and present. Happy Mother's Day to all of you. Okay, next, City Manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. It gives me a lot of pleasure to announce the city's police department has been awarded the Advanced Meritorious designation of the CALIA, which is the Commission on Accreditation for Law Enforcement Agencies. To achieve this, the police department went through a rigorous self-assessment, required review of policies, practices, procedures, and processes against internationally accepted public safety standards. In the state of Florida, 42 municipal departments have achieved CALIA award. However, only 14 have achieved the Advanced Meritorious designation, 4 of which are in Palm Beach County. The designation will remain in effect for 3 years, and we've had 7 of them. This department earns this recognition with the hard work that they go through, and 21 years of this recognition is most impressive, and I ask you to join me in congratulating the police department for outstanding work. And in keeping...
We do allow clapping, see, once in a while.
And in keeping with that great experience and that high standard of performance. You may have noticed there are certain individuals over here with uniforms on tonight, and they have something exciting to share with the council, and I'd like to introduce Sergeant Paul Rogers, who's in charge of this illustrious group, to explain what's going on and why they're here this evening. Sergeant?
Good evening, sir, Mayor, Council. Thank you for giving us a moment of your time tonight also. On Saturday, April 11th, our police explorers competed with other Explorer Posts from 4 other counties at the annual Gulfstream Council Law Enforcement Challenge that was held up in Stuart, Florida. The explorers competed in a variety of police disciplines to include high and low risk traffic stop, building searches, mock disaster response, and responding to critical incidents, and physical ability exercises. Our police explorers achieved top placements in the majority of the individual categories with the overall first place win. I'm going to bring up the explorers really quick here. Major Kirsten Erickson, can you please come up here? Lieutenant William Bootsbach, Sergeant Dina Ferris, Sergeant John Ferris. We also have Explorer Devin Bass, Hunter Bradford, and Chris Bovin. I would also like to congratulate the police officers who take time out to train these young men and women, Senior Explorer Advisor Officer Jason Sharon and Assistant Advisor Officer Stacy Clayton. Thank you. Turn around, show them your trophies. Turn around.
Yeah, Sergeant, if we could...
Just to show you what a tradition you have in the Explorers program, Sergeant Rogers?
Yes, sir.
Were you a graduate from the Explorers program?
Yes, sir. I started my Explorer program here in 1996.
Thank you. And I would like to bring to your attention one other item this evening. It's not my intention to embarrass this individual beyond belief, but I know it's going to occur. I would ask for our city's head PGA golf professional, Sherry Ply, please come to the podium. I know how you feel. Sherry will be inducted into the African American Golf Hall of Fame at the induction award ceremony on May 24th. The African American Golf Hall of Fame awarded Sherry its inaugural Golf Instructor of the Year award. The Hall of Fame founders, Malachi Knowles, stated in a letter to Sherry the following statement: "Your selection specifically is because you exemplified love of the game of golf, integrity, demonstrated teaching skills, and dedication to the growing of the game of golf in your greater community. You are extremely deserving of this prestigious honor, and I personally salute you." Sherry teaches and coaches her students with unrivaled enthusiasm, as you can see. Due to this honor, the city has proclaimed in a proclamation approved by you earlier that Sunday, May 24th, is Sherry Plah Day. The city of Palm Beach Gardens. And before we present you with this proclamation, I believe Stanley Wilson, the Executive Director of the African American Golfers Hall of Fame, is here and has something to say. Mr. Mayor.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, executive staff, and community. Thanks for giving our founder, Malachi Knowles, an opportunity to appreciate Ms. Plott before you. While he cannot be present as Vice President and Executive Vice President of the African American Golfers Hall of Fame, I'm glad to have this opportunity. Upon graduating from FAMU, I served 6 years as assistant golf professional at Bear Lakes Country Club. During this time, I've had the wonderful pleasure of getting to know Ms. Sherry Plah over those years, plus more years prior to that. I have never seen anyone with such dedication and willpower to grow the game of golf in the community, not only for juniors, but for all ages. She is definitely deserving of this award, and I'm very proud to have her in our community as a PGA member. I'm not sure if everyone knows how hard it is to become a PGA member, but it's a very strenuous 3-year process. And she fought through that 3 years, and upon that, she was still able to grow her golf academy and grow her herself in the community and dedicate herself to the juniors. So congratulations, and thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Photo op?
This is a proclamation, everybody. And I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's a long proclamation, but I just want to read the last whereas. The African American Golfers Hall of Fame cites that Coach Sherry was selected from numerous nominations from around the world for this honor because of her demonstrated teaching skills and dedication to growing the game of golf, which is our game in this city. We are the golf town.
That concludes my report.
Okay, next is comments from the public for items not on the agenda. Number one, I've got Sid Dinerstein. Sid? Name and address for the record.
Still here.
Yes.
After all this. Hi there, Sid Dinerstein, 15 St. George Place, Palm Beach Gardens. And, it wasn't my idea to be here tonight, but some of my friends asked me to come after some members of this council had a discussion last month about trying to do something about the term limits that just passed to wind up effectively obviating them. So they asked me if I would just come and say a few words. So I came to just say a few words, and the words I was going to say, I'm going to say a lot less of, having heard a very healthy and positive discussion on the All Aboard Florida. It was a pleasure to me to listen to all the council people talk about how their number one priority is to represent the community and to make sure they don't get out of balance. The people from All Aboard Florida were able to talk about a poll that said 80% of the people in this area oppose All Aboard Florida, which wouldn't surprise me one bit, other than, I don't know, the 20% that actually favor it. Well, those of us involved with term limits did better than a poll. We had an actual election. And 80% of the people who voted from the city of Palm Beach Gardens said we favor term limits. So I don't know why there would be a discussion about not listening to that part of the community and trying to do something to overturn what the clear wishes of the community are. So I'm not going to spend any more time and go into all the reasons why the community supports term limits. I'll simply say that it's clear that they will do it. So my last comment is that there is another piece of unfinished business that this council needs to take up. And it goes right along with opposition to All Aboard Florida and support for term limits. And that is support for the Inspector General and the full funding. It's the same thing. It's an overwhelming vote by the people in the community asking for you folks to do the right thing to make all of us more comfortable, and for some reason we can't get this town on that side. So hopefully, while you're all on this council, somebody will lead you in doing what I consider to be the right thing, but more importantly, the thing that the community wants you to do. So what should be so hard? With all that, I thank you all for what you do, and I don't get here often, and I promise I won't get here often in the future either, but it has been an enjoyable evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Sid. Barbara Grossman.
Barbara Grossman, 161 Thornton Drive, Palm Beach Gardens, Florida. I'm just here to make a quick announcement. We at the Palm Beach County Tea Party have invited some major candidates that are running for President of the United States to come and speak to our communities. And Rand Paul is coming, we heard yesterday, May 21st. And we're having the event at FAU campus in Jupiter, and I'll just leave a flyer out, so anybody interested in coming, we're hoping that we'll get the rest of the candidates in the next couple of months. Maybe they'll follow through. People will know who to vote for, maybe.
Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you for all the
Thank you. Next is the consent agenda.
Move consent.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Passes 5-0. Okay. Public hearings. Tonight we are holding quasi-judicial hearings on the following cases. Ordinance 6, 2015, second reading and adoption application for Mirasol Club and Association. Resolution 16, 2015, application for Mirasol Club and Association. Resolution 18, 2015, amending the Donald Ross Village PUD. This means that the City Council is required by law to base its decision on the evidence contained in the record of this proceeding, which consists of the testimony at the hearing, the materials which are in the official city file on this application, and any other documents presented during this hearing. The Council also is required by law to allow cross-examination of any witnesses who testify tonight. Cross-examination may occur after the staff, the applicant, and other participants have made their presentations and will be permitted in the order of the witness's appearance. It is necessary that anyone who testifies at the hearing remain until the conclusion of the hearing in order to be able to respond to any questions. If you plan to testify this evening or wish to offer written comments, please fill out a card and give it to the city clerk. The city clerk will now swear in all persons who intend to offer testimony this evening on any of these cases.
Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Okay, thank you. First, Ordinance 4, 2015. Clerk will read the title, please.
Ordinance 4, 2015, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, repealing Chapter 62, Streets, Sidewalks, and Certain Other Public Places in its entirety and readopting same as revised, in order to amend the clarity and clarify the regulations that govern the use of the city streets, swales, right-of-way, and public places, providing a conflicts clause, a severability clause, and authority to codify, providing an effective date and further purposes.
Open the public hearing. And ask for a staff presentation. Todd?
Good evening, Council. Here to present Ordinance 4, 2015. It's an amendment appealing Chapter 62 in its entirety and replacing it with the language attached to the ordinance. Chapter 62 is our street, sidewalk, swales, and other right-of-way ordinance that covers the construction, operation, and maintenance of those. The primary purpose of the ordinance is housekeeping in nature. And to go over some key points, what we're doing is redefining the definition of a swale, as the primary purpose of the swale is to convey and treat stormwater from our streets. This is a typical street section right here. So any typical street within the cities is 60-foot right-of-way. We have 22-foot of pavement and 19-foot of road. And currently the residents have been maintaining those swales. It's been an operation and procedure for years and years and years. We're just codifying that in our code. We're also putting the enforcement of that into our neighborhood and ordinance chapter 79, so we're able to enforce that portion of the code. We're also requiring that they maintain the actual cross-section of the swale for the stormwater conveyance and their driveway turnouts within the roadway per the code as it's stated in there. The other two major changes in the ordinance is we're prohibiting motorboats from being used within our canals and our lakes. Those encourage erosion, and we spent $5 million redoing all our canals and side banks there, and so we're going to prohibit those. And it also allows the use of culverts in certain areas where necessary. Here's an example of a culvert, some elevated streets, so we raise those so we don't hurt the vehicles going into those areas. Another major change is maintenance assumed by the city. Any road right-of-ways that we own and maintain, we take over maintenance of. They have to meet our minimum standards, and that's the trouble we ran into with Sunset and 40th Terrace. So the change in the codes is we can accept those roads as long as it meets our neighborhood improvement assessment program. So we have a mechanism in place to bring those roads up to our current standards. A good example of that is Mary Circle, if we ever look to take the ownership of that road, or any future annexations that we may have within that roadway. And it also repeals any language related to construction standards of the roadways in Chapter 62, and it just adopts our standard language that we have in our LDRs, which is Chapter 79, and it makes those equal. Here's an example of other cities within Palm Beach County that have very, very similar ordinances of maintaining of swales, and we recommend approval of Ordinance 4.
Any questions of staff? This is a public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on this item, now's the time. Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing, bring it back up for discussion or a motion.
Since this is such a swell idea, I'd like to move Ordinance 4, 2015 on first reading.
Ain't that swell? Moved and seconded.
Discussion. Is it?
Yes.
Can we censure him? Censor, yes.
Right over there.
Yes, there is. You want to wield it? Okay, it's moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Moved, passes 5-0. Next is Ordinance 9, 2015, first reading. Clerk will read the title, please.
Ordinance 9, 2015, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, repealing Chapter 70, Traffic and Vehicles in its entirety and readopting same as revised in order to amend and clarify regulations that govern the use of motor vehicles within the city and to be consistent with state law, providing a conflicts clause, a severability clause, and authority to codify, providing an effective date and for the purposes.
Good evening. For the record, Stephen
Open the
Stepp,
public
Chief
hearing.
of-
Steve, it's all yours.
Sorry.
Sorry.
For the record, Stephen Stepp, Chief of Police. This is repealing Chapter 70, dealing with traffic and vehicles, and readopting the same as revised to amend and clarify regulations for the use of motor vehicles within the city and to be consistent with state law, namely Florida State Statutes 316 and 318. The next slide here, I've bulleted 4 of the main highlight changes that we're looking to take place. The first 2 bullets are under Article 3, titled Parking, Standing, and Stopping. And the idea here is to prohibit parking to impede the safe ingress or egress of emergency vehicles along the city streets. And the second bullet deals with no overnight parking on the streets between 11 p.m. and 6 a.m. The third bullet is the repeal of Article 6 regarding unmanned image capture technologies, which basically eliminates the red light camera language that we put into place back in 2010. It's important to note that we never moved forward with that project. We were never fully comfortable with it in the city and have never to date had a red light camera system. But we do feel it's important to just go ahead and remove the language. And the fourth is mostly a housekeeping item to repeal Section 70-64 on civil penalties, and we're looking to just move the same schedule of fines to the master fee schedule. And with that, staff recommends approval of Ordinance 9, 2015 as presented on first reading.
Any questions? No. Okay. This is a public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on this item, now's the time to come forward. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back up for discussion and or a motion.
Move Ordinance 9, 2015 on first reading.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Passes 5-0. Next is Ordinance 5, 2015 on second reading. Clerk will read the titles.
Ordinance 5, 2015, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, amending its comprehensive plan to update the city's 10-year water supply facilities work plan in accordance with the mandates set forth in sections 163.3177 and 163.3184 Florida statutes, providing amendments to the future land use, infrastructure conservation, intergovernmental coordination, and capital improvements elements related to the 10-year water supply facilities work plan, providing for transmittal to the Florida Department of Economic Opportunity, DEO, providing a conflicts clause, a severability clause, and authority to codify, providing an effective date and for the purposes.
Good evening, Dawn Sonneborn with Planning and Zoning.
Don, has anything changed?
2 very minor changes, nothing substantial.
Triggers are being pulled so quick. I can't get my word in. Nothing changed?
2 very minor changes.
Do we need a presentation?
No.
No.
All right. In which case, is anyone here to speak for or against?
Quick question, just to get on the record, those 2 minor changes were comments from the South Florida Water District, Water Management District. I know those guys. I used to play soccer with them. Just dealing with population, correct?
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, any comments from the public? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing, bring it back up for discussion or a motion, please.
Okay. Ordinance 5, 2015, for second reading and adoption.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Passes 5-0. These are quasi-judicial. Ordinance 6, 2015 on second reading.
Ordinance 6, 2015, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, approving an application from Mirasol Club and Association Incorporated for an amendment to the Planned Community Development PCD Master Plan to update the tabular data related to the Mirasol Clubhouse expansion, providing a conflicts clause, a severability clause, and authority to codify, providing an effective date and for other purposes. Resolution 16, 2015, is a companion item to Ordinance 6, 2015, and will require council action. Resolution 16, 2015, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, approving an application from Mirasol Club and Association Incorporated for a site plan amendment to allow an expansion of the Mirasol Clubhouse and to provide additional parking spaces at the Southwest Maintenance Facility. The Mirasol Clubhouse parcel is a 27.27-acre parcel located at the intersection of Mirasol Way and Mirasol Boulevard, and the Southwest Maintenance Facility is a 2.06-acre parcel located at the southwest corner of the Planned Community Development PCD, approximately 240 feet north of PGA Boulevard, as more particularly described herein, providing a waiver, providing conditions of approval, providing an effective date, and for other purposes.
And open the public hearing and ask for ex partes. Any?
None.
None.
None. Okay. Has anything changed since first reading?
No, sir.
Do we need a presentation?
She just wants to state her name and address.
Oh,
For the
you were
record-
sworn in?
I have been sworn in. My name is Ann Booth.
Name and address for the record.
Urban Design Kilday Studios, and I'm representing the Mirasol Club tonight.
Okay. We don't need a presentation, so anyone wishing to speak on this item, now is the time. Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back up.
Move Ordinance 6, 2015 on second reading and adoption.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Next is Resolution 16. Have a motion?
Move Resolution 16, 2015.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor? Aye. Passes 5-0.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we're moving along pretty good, folks. Resolution 18, amending the Donald Ross Village PUD. Clerk will read the title, please.
Resolution 18, 2015, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, approving an amendment to the Donald Ross Village Plan Unit Development PUD and major conditional use approval to relocate Building C and approve a phasing plan for Building D. The Donald Ross Village PUD is located at the southeast corner of Central Boulevard and Donald Ross Road, as more particularly described herein, providing a waiver, providing conditions of approval, providing an effective date, and for other purposes.
This is a public hearing, an open public hearing. Any ex partes?
Yes, I did speak with Mr. Ken Tuma about this, and as you know, we've received numerous emails and letters from the CILO development. Did I say that correctly?
CILO.
Development to the south of the project.
Yes, I do. I have had numerous conversations with Mr. Ken Tuma. I also spoke to the Brox and have received, I think, an email from almost every townhome owner in the Cielo development, as well as many residents, neighbors, I should say, in Evergreen, and also some people or some folks from Frenchman's Creek last night spoke about it as well.
Okay. Joe?
No discussions, but obviously I did receive the same emails.
Same for me, no discussion, same emails.
Yes, I
And
got-
staff.
I got all the emails as well. I spoke to Peter Brock earlier this afternoon, and that's it. Okay, anyone, staff presentation? Petitioner presentation, sorry.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Ken Tuma with Urban Design Kilday Studios. I have been sworn in. My address is 610 Clematis Street, CU number 2, West Palm Beach, Florida. Good evening. Here on behalf of the Brox for Donald Ross Village, this is a PUD amendment. There are two requests before you. The first request is to relocate 5,000 square feet of restaurant and relocate it into 4,000 square feet. So we're actually making the restaurant space 1,000 square feet smaller. The second part of the request is a major conditional use to allow a drive-through for a portion of that a portion of that restaurant space. Now, during the course of the day and for the last couple of days, we have met with some of the neighbors, and we also have gone and spoke to some of you and staff to kind of understand the issues. So what you're going to see is a little bit of a change from what was actually submitted a few weeks ago, but I think it's going to address several of the issues tonight. So just for background, the site is, of course, located on Donald Ross Road between Central Boulevard and Military Trail on the south side. The two items that we're going to be discussing in detail are identified on the screen as Building C and D. So just a little history, of course, was approved, 12 years ago in 2003. The uses are identified on the screen. The particular buildings, Building C was approved for a 5,000 square foot restaurant, and Parcel D is approved for a 5,000 square foot bank. Both have not been constructed yet. So Parcel C is located here kind of in the middle of the screen. And then what we're requesting is to relocate Parcel C to the east side. For those of you who go to that center, you recognize that there is a parking problem on the west side of the center. There isn't a parking space problem. There are plenty of parking spots. In fact, this thing is parked over code, but really it's where the spots are. So what we thought we would do is we would relocate Building C further east. We're going to reduce it down 1,000 square feet, and then we're going to convert that area where Building C is into 43 parking spots. It's not additional parking spots because we're moving the building from one spot to the other, so we're actually taking about close to the same or just a few less parking spots. The second part is on Building D, we're requesting a temporary parking spots that would allow an additional 47 parking spots to be in that center area where all the energy of the center is located. So phase one, here you'll see a bank building. You'll see a bank building right here. Oops, there it goes. A bank building. And then here's where the proposed restaurant drive-through 4,000 square foot building would be located. In more detail, well, first thing, one of the questions that came up from our discussions were, how does traffic come and enter into the project? So if you're going westbound on Donald Ross Road, you're going to go west through Military Trail, and then you're going to take a left into the Donald Ross Road exit. That's how the traffic would normally flow there. If you're going eastbound on Donald Ross Road, you turn into one of the two exits, or one of the two entrance points on the north side of the road. If you're going southbound on Military Trail, you would enter into the project coming off the first right turn lane just north of what used to be the BBT Bank. And then if you're coming southbound, you do enter, if you're going northbound, you enter into the entrance which is adjacent to the CL community, which I think is the point of discussion for tonight. So here is the building that was part of your package. You'll notice that we had a drive-through on the eastern side of the building. It was a 100-foot stacking distance of drive-through. The plan that we've changed based on the comments that we've heard identifies that drive-through and allows a different and longer stacking distance. Basically, we've created a drive-through going both on the east side of the building, but also on the south side of the building. So the drive-through now has 185 feet of stacking. We've also shifted the traffic pattern. Instead of being a north-south traffic pattern, now the traffic pattern is an east-west pattern. The second thing that we are agreeing to tonight is that the restaurant associated with the drive-through will be no greater than 2,000 square feet. So what does that mean? A 4,000 square feet is a PDQ or a KFC or a Taco Bell. A 2,000 square foot restaurant drive-through is more like a donut shop. And I will tell you, we have the potential tenant here is Dunkin' Donuts. They're sitting in the audience tonight, and they can answer any questions about how you make the donuts at 5 a.m. But that is the tenant that's proposed for this. It's not proposed to be a McDonald's. The McDonald's across the street is much bigger. It's 24 hours. This is proposed to be a donut shop or a coffee shop or something like that. So the building is 4,000 feet, but the restaurant associated with the drive-through would be no greater than 2,000 feet, and that limits what can go in there, and both for now and in the future. For now, our intent, though I don't think the lease is completely done, is for it to be a Dunkin' Donut. So, here it is identified what half the building would look like, and half the building would be associated with the Dunkin' Donut. There is one waiver requested tonight. That waiver is for signage, basically allowing signage on the corner on two sides. If you recall, Donald Ross Village has the significant upland preserve in the front. So really, the visual when you pull into Donald Ross Village is the side of the building. So we're asking for signage on the front and also on the sides, and staff supports that. And I'm going to keep it short tonight, but I'm absolutely here to answer any questions or any concerns that you may have. Thank you.
Ken, you were sworn in, right? I didn't ask you that.
I'm
You were
sorry.
sworn in.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, I was.
Okay.
Ken?
Any questions? David.
The other 2,000 square feet, what would that be zoned for? What could you put in there?
It is proposed to be a restaurant today, but it could be retail, it could be anything. I don't think our client knows what the end result of that's going to be.
Could be another restaurant?
It could be another restaurant, but without a drive-through.
Okay. Is there a condition in this that says that the wall can't be broken down so it becomes a 4,000 square foot?
So the conditional use for the drive-through specifically says we can't be any greater than 2,000 feet. So if they come in for a building permit for 2,050 feet or 2,000, whatever the number may be, they wouldn't be able to get the permit to knock that wall down because it would be a condition, it would be part of the major
Okay, so there's a condition that says this will be 2,000 feet. Oh, and I know we can't tie a future count unless you came back before us.
That's correct.
Okay. The Dunkin' Donuts person, Ken, I want to know how many cars go through their drive-through per hour.
Okay.
You know, at the peak.
At the peak. I don't know the exact answer to that, but what I can tell you is we're stacking 185 feet. That was some of the suggestions we had. That's a lot. Your code is 100 feet for stacking, and we're almost double that. We weren't quite capable to get double of that, but that's a lot of ability to stack cars within that area.
Yeah, I mean, if you're waiting more than that, you're getting out of the car and going inside.
Yeah, you're going to get right. Right. Well, the other thing too is, one of the things about Donald Ross Village we hear is it's very busy at night, right? It's become the popular place. If I was in college, I know where I'd be on a Thursday night, but I'm not there anymore on a Thursday night. But this is a morning use. This is a morning use, right? So it's definitely, it's going to be different. That parking lot's not going to be busy when I'm going to go get donuts and come to work.
Yeah. Now, let's say, obviously, we can't keep you from putting something else, so a Starbucks could go in there.
Correct.
But somebody like that could go in there, but not like a Taco
that's
Bell.
Correct. Like any approval, you can't restrict
the
leasee, it's the use.
Okay.
Ken, I wanted to give you credit for that, by the way. Coming in and saying it's probably going to be a Dunkin' Donuts, as opposed to coming in and say, well, it could be this, could be that, we don't know what it's going to be, because it allows us to plan for it. Because you said the Dunkin' Donuts person's here, but I would think most of that traffic, I think like you alluded to, was, as far as the drive-through, was going to be in the morning, when the rest of the center, there isn't a lot going on, as opposed to, what's that?
There's a lot.
Well, I mean, not at 7 or 8 in the morning. I mean, the stores aren't even open. I mean, it can't be that busy at that hour. I mean, I don't think there's a lot of breakfast places in there. Marcy, I guess, knows. So Marcy will give me the report. I guess the bottom line is I appreciate you coming in, telling us what it's going to be so we can look at it, and as opposed to figure it out later. I think that's a good thing. And I don't know. I do believe the Dunkin' Donuts has more, because I see the one on North Lake. In the morning, it's stacked out to
Military Trail.
Yeah, probably not as much as you have capacity for. But the bottom line is when you go by there at 12 or 1 o'clock, there's nothing. So, but anyway. But Marcy, I think, is going to teach me about this, because it seems like she knows long about it. She's probably been out there for the past month looking at it. So, Marcy, teach us.
Go ahead, Marcy.
Does staff have an...
Yes, we do. Staff has a presentation.
We would like to hear from the public and staff, too.
Good evening, council members. For the record, my name is Smash bin Rahman with the Planning and Zoning Department. I have been sworn in. This is a request from Donna Ross Village for a PUD amendment and major conditional use for Resolution 18-2015. Tonight, you have received a memorandum with an updated resolution which reflects an updated site plan and an additional condition of approval which restricts the square footage for the restaurant building. And I have incorporated this into this presentation. As Mr. Kentuma has said, this is a request to relocate Building C, which is located in this area here. It is currently a vacant grass pad area. The request is to relocate it to this location here, reduce the square footage from 4,000 square feet, from 5,000 square feet to 4,000 square feet. In addition, to provide additional parking spaces in this area here and this area here. In Phase 2, the parking spaces in this area would be removed and Building D would be constructed as previously approved by the City Council. This is the proposed site layout. The applicant has revised the site layout to provide additional stacking capacity. Previously, the approval or the request was for 100 feet of stacking. The applicant has revised that to provide 185 feet, which is above and beyond compared to what code requires. The code requirement is for 100 feet. In terms of traffic, there are 6 access points into this community, 1 off of Central Boulevard, 3 off of Donald Ross Road, and 2 off of Military Trail. We have received emails from concerned residents of the Cielo community to the south. They are concerned about access point number 6, which is the driveway that the residents also use to access their community. We do have our city's traffic consultant here who can answer any questions, but based on the traffic analysis that was submitted, majority of the trips that this user will impact is going to be from Donald Ross Road rather than from Military Trail. To zoom into the access point number 6, which is the driveway into the Cielo community does have a separate entrance. In addition, they do have a driveway with adequate stacking. They have 170 feet of stacking before the entrance gates into their community. Code does require 100 feet. There is a high demand for parking spaces within this plaza, especially the western portion here. You have numerous successful restaurants such as Burger Bar, Culinary Cafe, and it is difficult to find parking spaces in this area. The applicant is proposing to provide additional parking spaces. The applicant is proposing a drive-through operation, but there is the fact that while a drive-through operation does create some traffic demands, there is still less parking demand associated with a drive-through restaurant. There's a number of retail and restaurant buildings that are located in this area here, which will buffer the Cielo residents from the drive-through facility located here. The applicant is proposing the hours of operation of 5 a.m. to midnight. Initially, they were requesting a 24-hour drive-through facility, but has decreased that to 5 to midnight. In terms of architecture, the applicant is proposing very consistent architecture with the rest of the community. It incorporates design elements such as the barrel tile roof, banding, and it will be consistent with the rest of the plaza. This is another elevation showing proposed architecture. This is an image of the existing shopping plaza. The applicant is requesting for one waiver, which is to allow for an additional flat wall sign for ground floor users. Per code, they're allowed to have one sign per tenant space. Staff is recommending approval of this waiver request. This is consistent with previous City Council approval, and these signs will serve as wayfinding signs for this site so that it helps vehicles and pedestrians find this building. To conclude, this project is consistent with the overall intent of the goals, objective, and policies of the city's comprehensive plan. Staff is recommending approval of this petition. Since this project will alleviate the parking distribution problem, especially on the western portion of the site, it will provide for additional parking spaces. The proposed architecture is consistent with what is out there today. There are some minimal traffic impacts, and then the stacking capacity, the applicant has revised that to provide more stacking capacity. And with this, staff is recommending approval of Resolution 18-2015. Thank you.
Thank you. I do have 4 cards for public comment from this. If anyone else wants to come up to the microphone and make a comment, please fill out a public comment request and give it to the clerk. The first one is Galinda Judge. Galinda. Name and address for the record, and have you been sworn in?
Good evening, and this is Galina, Judge, 4713 Artesa Way East, Palm Beach Gardens.
And you have been sworn in?
Yes, I have been. Well, personally, of course, I don't want to see, fast food restaurant there. It's just, in my opinion, doesn't go together with the current vibe of that community. Beautifully dressed people come there in the evening, they enjoy a nice setting, and, a fast food restaurant is not something that goes there, in my opinion. But overall, of course, concern are the hours of operation. Even if this place none of the current restaurants have outside permanent setting. They pick up the chairs, the tables, after hours of operation, they put away. If this restaurant has an outside permanent setting, then people are going to be gathering there after hours of operation. High school students will be going there at any time. This segment of the sidewalk between Cielo community and Dwyer High right now is littered with McDonald's coffee cups, with Publix bags, not from Publix, I'm sorry, from McDonald's. And for students to get to those places, they have to cross Military Trail. It's not convenient. Now, if there's business as any fast food restaurant will go there, it will be very convenient, and will be more trash there. And we used to have benches outside of a community. Those benches were removed because, once again, people were gathering there, they were smoking, trashing the place, graffiti. I have concerns, and of course traffic is really a concern. And that's it.
Thank you very much. Next is James Judge. Mr. Judge, again, your name and address for the record.
Evening, James Judge, 4713 Artesa Way East.
And you have been sworn in?
Yes, sir. I'm opposed, and I disagree with staff's recommendation to move the location of Building C to the east. The reason I'm opposed to this is, yes, there is some parking issues in that lot. However, the hours of operation that are primarily being proposed, which is early in the morning, there's no cars in the parking lot at that time of day. However, there is a significant amount of traffic on entrance 6, I believe, at the Cielo entrance off the Military. There's a bus stop there. There's children there. There's students walking between Dwyer that walk to school along that side of the road. I leave for work and I go out that way. It's very busy at that time of the morning. Adding a high-density business that would be using that exit to get back onto Military Trail is going to add to the traffic problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. James Gallopo?
My name is James Gallopo. I live at 4905 Vinecliff Way East in Palm Beach Gardens in Cielo, and I have been sworn in.
Thank you.
I am opposed to a drive-through restaurant in this community. I understand it's a mixed-use planned unit development. However, a drive-through restaurant is designed to draw people from outside the development. We have 156 units in 20 buildings. And one of the entrances we talked about here was entrance 6 from Military Trail. If you're going north on Military Trail, this is the only direct entrance into the plaza, and that is right where we live. we are the citizens who live in Cielo, in this community. When you enter into that, and I don't have access to the drawings here, but when you enter into the access of the development through that entranceway, you come in and it curves around. The curve is dangerous because the curve itself is dangerous because it's not fully visible. If we can blow it up just a little bit. When you come in here, there's this curve, there's a power box, there's shrubbery, it's beautiful, but it leaves a little bit of blind spot for you. So vehicles coming this way are not always seen. We have to make a left turn into Cielo over here. In the morning, you have children walking to the high school, which is located over here. You have school buses with young children going there. You have parents dropping their children off. And we're going to have cars coming in, turning left off of Military Trail, which you're going to have to do quickly because there's a lot of traffic, and entering into this entranceway. I lost the arrow. Here we go. Entering into the entranceway and coming up to the facility. I do understand there are 3 entrances. This is a one-way in. This is a in and out, and this is an in and out entrance off Donald Ross. There's also a 2-way up here from Central. I understand those will collect that traffic, but I'm concerned about the traffic coming from Military Trail. I agree with the statement before that a drive-through restaurant in this facility doesn't seem to fit. It doesn't, to me, benefit the residents. And thank you.
Thank you, Miss. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Michael Wright.
Good evening. Michael Wright, 4501 Artesa Way, Cielo Development.
And you have been sworn in.
I have been sworn in. I just want to point out that the stacking is not the issue. The issue is the traffic. As been pointed out, we have a very high use of that one access road, especially in the morning. There's a gym right there, right near the entrance. The main flow to that gym is in the morning. There are school children walking down the sidewalk, going down to Dwyer. The only way to get into and out of our development is through that one access point. We have one ingress and egress for 156 homes. I moved here 9 years ago into this development, and at that time, my one concern was, for me and my family, was one entrance and one exit. But the thing that we had to deal with at that time was the unbuilt was a restaurant. There was no talk of a drive-through, so we're changing horses in midstream here. We're changing the rules of a mixed-use development where we have a shared residential and commercial. And the one thing that I find difficult was that the residents of Cielo weren't approached for discussion at all before any of this development happened. The only time we were approached was after we showed up at the planning board meeting to ask questions. So we'd like to be partners with Donald Ross Village, in Donald Ross Village, but we'd like a fair shake, and we'd like, at least for me, please, give consideration to denying this request, rethink it, redo it, allow something to happen so that we don't have a safety issue with this traffic. That's the only way emergency vehicles can get into our community, and it's the only way that they can access it. And Dunkin' Donuts is going to be a morning activity, the gym is a morning activity, and the school children walking down that street is a morning activity, and there's a school bus stop on that corner. So if anybody wants to go out there at 7:30 and see that it's not a high demand intersection, please. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. I have one more card, James Alexander. Mr. Alexander, have you been sworn in, sir?
I have not.
Well, would you come up to the podium, and clerk, would you swear him in, please?
Sir, would you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Name and address for the
James
record.
Alexander, 4704 Artesia Way East, Palm Beach Gardens, Florida. Thank you. The greatest volume of traffic will impact that area, entrance 6, in the early morning hours, as other people have said, when children are going to school. I maintain that there's a design flaw in and of itself. I imagine it's FP&L, transformer box or something that can be shown on the corner there in one of the views. It, from a passenger car, is higher than the standard driver's height of 42 inches. It does provide for traffic coming in from military a visual obstruction looking to your right when you're attempting to enter CLO, making a left turn. With that design flaw and the greater volume of traffic during the morning, that is a significant increase in hazard, for which, if it is approved, the interested parties simply need to be informed of and forward those that increase of hazard onto their insurance carriers. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who would like to fill out a card and speak? Okay. Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing and bring it back up for discussion. Anybody want to weigh in? I have one question first, before we go anywhere. Can you make that bigger? That picture? There you go. Okay, that's not the question. No, the last slide, because it says
That
what
one?
access number 6
sure.
and access number 5, right?
Yes.
So there were 2 accesses going north, okay? And, pardon me, yes, no, one going north, one going south, correct? Is there a sign on any one of those? Are there monument signs there? Yes. They are, okay. And do they have tenant signs on them?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, that's all I want to know. Go ahead. Anybody?
I guess what I'm not understanding from the resident side, we're lessening the impact. You're taking a 5,000 square foot fast foot, Marcy, can I finish? And then you could talk about the more traffic, down to 4,000. Okay, and Marcy just said that there's more traffic. There's more traffic with this 4,000 square feet than there was with the 5,000?
There is a slight increase in the actual total number of trips, even though the square footage is reducing. We're going from a 5,000 square foot building to a restaurant square foot, to a 5,000 square foot restaurant to a 4,000 square foot restaurant with drive-through, but the increase in trips is very minimal. It's negligible.
Okay, so it's almost the same thing. The other thing I'm not understanding is with all of these this drop-off thing. What is this drop-off thing?
From what we understand, there might be some parents from Dwyer High School who appear to be pulling into this center and dropping off their kids and having their children walk to Dwyer. That is what we understand from some of the resident concerns and what we are learning through Brock, and that's what we understand of the issue.
We need to figure out, that issue has to be addressed. I mean, that is not a good thing that we're putting that many more kids, and from what they're saying is even without this, that there's a lot of traffic going through there. So we need to address that. How many trips were going through this entrance?
This yellow entrance, 6.
So
yes, the entrance in question.
This is actually a perfect slide to answer that question, because it shows you a very conservative estimate, actually, of what is anticipated. And as you can see, the minority of the trips are anticipated to utilize for this particular use in the traffic analysis that southernmost exit and entrance point off of Military Trail. This is, and our traffic engineers here, but in her remarks, she did believe that these numbers even were a little bit more conservative in those approach.
So in other words,
we believe that even more trips that are being showed in the traffic analysis will actually be utilizing Donald Ross Road. But as you can see, the new AM trips and the PM trips include 13 in, 21 out, 9 in, 16 out, which results in a one car every 2 minutes.
Okay, is that 13 more trips than when it was originally going to go through there with the 5,000 square foot building?
Yes.
So it's 13 more trips?
Yes.
Okay, into that particular entrance.
Yes.
But that's what you're saying is the most it could be, because they
Yes.
think it's more conservative.
That is the most, and our traffic engineer believes these numbers to be conservative.
And why that many? Oh, because those are the people that are heading north on Military that are going to make a left into there, right?
Those are the only people that would be able to utilize.
Because everybody else will be using Access 5.
Yes. Or the multiple points. I mean, this is a very good center from a traffic circulation standpoint. You have multiple points of access, and you have the ability, if you are on Donald Ross Road, if you are heading west, to be able to go directly into the center. So you have a really good situation where you have multiple choices to get in and out of the center.
Okay. And then on the other side of it, which and again, I said earlier, we have to protect the residents' rights. And that's true, but there's also rights of this development petition that was originally approved for a 5,000 square foot building. And the thing that concerns me is that you can't go back. I think one resident said, I forget who it was said that, they didn't want to see, one person said they didn't want to see a fast food restaurant, okay, but that's really what it was originally approved. It was approved for a restaurant. It could be fast food to begin with. And then, no. It wasn't approved as a restaurant?
No, the definition of restaurant under the city's code and the development order would allow some type of fast food activity in that restaurant.
Right.
What wasn't approved originally was the drive-through. But yes, I mean, you could have something like a Chipotle or a PDQ go in there automatically.
Marcy seems to know too much about this. she's not letting me finish. You'll have your opportunity when I finish, but it's so again. And the point I'm really coming from is they really have a right to build. Maybe they don't have a right to build a drive-through or whatever because it wasn't in the original thing, but they have a right to build 5,000 square feet.
Yes, they do.
Okay, so you get into a situation that what are the trade-offs? They're lowering it to 4,000 square feet. I like the location because it's far away from let's say the intensity of center. In other words, where it originally was is where you have all those different things and so forth. So the only thing that does concern me, obviously, are the kids. I mean, that's one thing that does concern me. So that's something that we need to address and figure out.
If I can make 2 points on that, really, from a policing standpoint, if there are parents that are blocking the access driveway where you cannot get an emergency vehicle through and they are dropping off their kids in such an ad hoc fashion where it is impeding in the life safety and impeding in the flow of traffic, then we can certainly go in there and police that. But if it is a pattern where parents are coming in and utilizing the facility, then that is a management issue that Brock does need to address. And it is actually my understanding that there has been some correspondence already with Brock to those parents or to that group in order to address that problem, because I think this whole discussion has brought the Brock Corporation much more aware of this, and it's my understanding that they intend to start enforcing that. But of course, the applicant can address that.
I am gladly now turning this over to Marcy.
Marcy,
well,
all yours.
Let me ask my quick questions.
Bert first.
The two grass pads currently now are going to be developed into parking spots.
Yes.
Okay. So what's the total parking spots for those two lots?
So there's 2 parking scenarios. In both scenarios, they are overparked.
Right.
In the first scenario, where it's going to be that additional parking lot, they're way overparked. Tomash is bringing up the parking data. 106 parking spots are being provided as part of that first phase when 713 are required. And then, Tomash, could you go to the second slide, please?
Sure.
And then as part of the second phase, where the bank building will then pop into that out parcel, then 759 parking spaces are being provided when 739 are required by code.
Okay, so the new, I just want to know the new parking spots that they're going to pay for the 2 lots. What are we adding, 100? Are we adding 100?
Yes. Right, so they're required to provide 713, right, and they're providing 806, and they are adding approximately 90 parking spaces.
90 parts, and if they
Yes.
do the other building, the approved bank building, then we'll
Right.
lose some of that, but still they're overparked.
Yes.
So it's still good, okay.
Yes.
The resident talked about the FP&L box, and I think that's a good point.
I noted that comment. I thought that was a good point. We can certainly look into that, and if there is opportunity to, it sounds like it's an FP&L transformer, potentially. We can look into that, and if it is blocking safe site visibility, we can see whatever we can do to get them to move that, but I'm happy, I noted that down, and we're happy to reach out to FP&L to see if they can look at that.
Because there was concerns over that corner, which if there's going to be more traffic coming out, 13 trips, whatever the number is in the morning, then I think we just need to kind of...
It's something, if something is legitimately blocking the safe site triangle, it needs to be looked at today, so we'll look into that.
Is FP&L tough to work with on moving or relocating some of this stuff?
We'll try our best to try to get it relocated.
But I'm just trying to figure that out, so, okay, thank you.
Okay, Marcy, you're up.
Okay, a couple questions. Do we have a traffic monitoring condition on this, like we do with some developments?
No, we do not.
Okay. I thought maybe that would be helpful with the issue that we were talking about with the kids and the traffic issues here in the morning. In addition, I want to ask the applicant if they met with the CLO HOA before the public hearing process. Did that occur?
No, it was
in between the P&Z and the...
Come on.
Sorry. Good evening again, Ken Chuma. The answer to that question is no, we did not. We met with them between planning and zoning and this city council meeting.
Okay. And did you meet with any other
associations?
No, right?
No, we did not. No.
Okay. I'm going to start with the positives. The first positive is that this center is a beautiful shopping center. It is one that I frequent very often. My dog gets treated at the vet there. My daughter absolutely loves the Burger Bar and many of the other restaurants, so we go there quite often because then I don't have to cook. Being very popular, it is a good problem, but you do have a major parking issue after hours, after work hours. Like you were saying, in the morning there's not quite a parking issue, but in the evening there is, and that's a good problem to have, and I really appreciate the fact that you are trying to address those parking issues by moving the building and also willing to help modify and address our concerns as you guys did today by fixing the stacking. I felt that there was a stacking issue because I do frequent the shopping center across the street as well, and we don't have, thankfully, a lot of fast food restaurants in Palm Beach Gardens. And the McDonald's across the street, the stacking is always 10, 12 cars in that McDonald's. Doesn't matter what time, morning, afternoon, evening, all hours of the night. Well, until they're closed. And, every other Dunkin' Donuts that we have around Palm Beach Gardens, they are absolutely popular, which is a good thing. We love them, and they do have a lot of traffic, which I can appreciate. I love Dunkin' Donuts. I'm going to start with my concerns, which are the hours of operation. And because of the parking issue in the shopping center, I'm glad that it's a morning restaurant because it doesn't compete with all of the other restaurants in the shopping center for parking, which is the concern, a concern. So with the hours of operation, as some of the other residents said, of I think it was 5 a.m. to 12, which is midnight, I did some checking around, and all of the Dunkin' Donuts in Palm Beach Gardens have to start at 5. I understand that. That's when the donuts have to be made. But they're 5 a.m. to 10, 5 a.m. to 9. The majority are 5 to 8. The Donald Ross Road one, which is up the street in Juneau, that's 5 to 8. The one on North Lake is 5 to 8. The North Lake and Federal is 5 to 10. That's the latest one. And all of the other ones are 5 to 9 and 5 to 8. So I would like to see the hours of operation because if this is a breakfast restaurant and it doesn't compete, and that's the intent, I would like to see the hours of operation reflect that. I understand the high school students will use this, and I hope they do, because it would become, again, another popular, frequented place where everyone will patronize. But I do ask that the property owners and the uses pick up the trash. I walk a lot from Evergreen across the street to the center, and I cut through the preserve area, and it is filled with a lot of trash by the CVS. And I do ask that you try to keep that clean, because that is something that, not your fault, but it happens because you have a lot of students there. This is kind of like Lake Catherine, so I would like to see the hours of operation at least reduced from midnight, because we can't monitor, like David said, we cannot monitor whether it's Dunkin' Donuts or it's another type of restaurant. I really appreciate the fact that you modified the square footage on that, and again, that is another plus for working with us to help make this a better place for the neighbors and help make this a better place for the gardens. Thank you. That wasn't too terrible, was it?
No, no. Not at all.
The other point you're making is they're asking for 5 to midnight. If these others
They've changed it to 6.
What?
No?
Well, I don't know. But my point is I don't know that, I mean, they're going to be open, these other stores that are open till
11.
Till 10 or 8 or whatever. The reason is that because there's probably no business beyond that. You know what I mean? So this thing is probably going to be in that same particular thing. They're asking for 12, so maybe 12 isn't important.
Is not. I think the 5 is very important, I understand, because every single Dunkin' Donuts is open at 5. Everyone in the entire county, I understand that.
And they don't have a traffic.
How late are the other restaurants in this plaza open till?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's something I think is kind of important. I don't know when the does Burger Bar shut down at 10?
Yeah, but the other restaurants don't have drive-throughs.
Yeah, I think
The only one that
point,
has a drive-through in Palm Beach Gardens is the one in North Lake, which is the...
we have a Wendy's on North Lake.
The one on North Lake is
We have a
5
Wendy's.
to 8.
We have a McDonald's. No, Dunkin' Donuts, I don't know. But there's no reason, if the other establishments are closed at 9, there's no reason for this to stay open afterwards.
Does it matter to
Ken,
me?
I think Ken wants to say something.
I'm going to be honest. To me, the later it's open gives you more safety in that whole community because you got something going on in there. I don't see it as being a bar or hangout kind of place. I mean, so to me,
I do.
You do.
And I think that I
don't go to Dunkin' Donuts. So you're saying people go and hang out in Dunkin' Donuts?
Well, we have concerns. We just heard about them.
Yes, but they're usually wearing blue.
I'm not a frequenter, so.
I don't see the hours of operation, the
Sorry about that, Chief.
operation, a big deal
Mr.
anyway.
Mayor, City Commissioner, if I may address
Ken,
the Commission at your pleasure, of course.
Thank you.
A couple things. First thing, in regards to the hours, Councilwoman Tinsley, if the hours are specific as the issue here is the drive-through, I mean, that's really the conditional use.
Just
We
the
could have a
drive-through.
5,000 square foot restaurant open, all the time. And you also mentioned the McDonald's across the street, by the way, is open 24 hours. I go there once in a while. But yes, we would be willing to restrict the hours on the drive-through component, which I think is what we're talking about. And we had requested, I believe, well, first thing, 5 o'clock has to be, because they have to make the donuts, right? Okay, so working on the other end, we started at 12. I just talked to Mr. Brock, and he said we can go to 11 if that would help everyone here.
Excuse me, Ken, do they actually make the donuts there? I didn't think they made them there anymore.
I really don't know.
If they bring them in. They got to be, they have to be open at 5 because people want a cup of coffee
to go to work, right?
That's right. They have to go to work,
I'm
and that's
sorry,
when they get their
my
coffee.
was back on that stupid TV commercial a few years ago. Right.
Yeah. Okay. 11 o'clock. We're talking about 11 o'clock.
It's okay, Mr. Brock. It's okay, Mr. Brock.
Okay. All right. A couple of things. First of all, the real movement that the residents are concerned about is the northbound movement on Military Trail. Okay, that's entrance 6, and the only reason you can't use exit or entrance 5 is because there's no median cut there, right? Okay, and you can't get one because DOT won't let you do that. All right. Now, if you had left the restaurant in question on the same grassy path. The people coming into, and if there was a Dunkin' Donuts there, they'd still be coming into there's only one way to get into that from the northern movement, and they're going to come in that way anyway. So moving it from the west to the east isn't going to change anything, as far as I'm concerned, because the Dunkin' Donuts is there or it's here. People are going to be frequenting that, and they're going to be using that entrance. So, to me, that doesn't make any sense. The applicant, frankly, this is a mixed-use project. A drive-through restaurant is allowed in a mixed-use situation. So you have to look at their point of view as well as the residents, and I appreciate the residents' concerns, but I personally don't see that that's going to change that much. There are issues, I think, on entrance 6 that really aren't related to any restaurant in that area. It's partially the drop-off that parents are using for Dwyer. I understand some kids or some students are using the parking lot there, too, to park their cars and then walk down to Dwyer because maybe there's not enough parking at Dwyer. But any parent who's going to drop their child off there can just as easily drop the student off at the high school itself. I don't know why they're doing that. And
I can tell you that it's not easy
whatever,
to drop
but
your
you know,
kid
it's
off.
not designed as a drop-off. It never was. All right, and that needs to be rectified. And
we had the same problem at Palm Beach Gardens Elementary School, where parents were dropping their kids off at various parks, and the police enforced that and stopped that behavior. So now that they're required to go through the drop-off.
Right.
You know what they're doing here is not allowed. You're not supposed to drop your kid off at a remote spot and let them walk.
Right.
You know, and matter of fact, I think that the center probably would have a problem with that also.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So I think that's a matter of enforcement and, you know, education of the parents that, you know, you have to drop your kids off in the proper manner.
Well, anytime there's a shortcut, people are going to try and take it.
Yeah. This actually, you know, by bringing this to our attention, this may actually help the current situation, and we may be able to solve some of the parents' problems. Not the parents' problems, some of the residents' problems, because we may be able to, and you may actually end up seeing, after this restaurant is built, a reduction in the amount of people that are actually using that driveway, because some of them are using the manner that's inconsistent with what it's used for, which is to bring people either at that time in the morning to the proposed restaurant or to the gym, which are the only establishments I assume are open at that time, between the 5 and 8 o'clock.
Right.
You know, probably 5 to 10 o'clock. I think most of those are retail facilities don't open till later, and I think the existing restaurants are mostly lunch and
place.
dinner.
There's a
and
diner.
there's a bank.
I don't know if the diner is open for breakfast, but Blue Moon Diner.
I guess my concern is, and maybe y'all can help me with this, is, you know, this is a drive-through, and we just turned down a drive-through at off of North Lake Boulevard.
Yeah.
You know, because of traffic concerns, although I gather that those traffic concerns were much more severe because there are only 2 entrances into that and only one actually that's on the street.
And it was
So-
it was a tortured way to
Yeah,
get
this is a
around.
little
And
less
it
tortured.
conflicted with people trying to get into the restaurant itself by foot.
Okay, yes. So I guess this is less of a problem, so that's why I've been trying to, you know, are we kind of changing our vision for Palm Beach Gardens? Because, you know, we always had, you know, on PGA we have the overlay that prohibits drive-throughs. You know, are we kind of changing that for Donald Ross? And that's fine. If we are, then we should support this. But
It's an excellent point, David, and I'm fine with the 2,000 square feet with the drive-through. But if it was like across the street with the McDonald's with the drive-through 24 hours a day, I'd have a major issue with that. So, I mean, it's almost like we should try and address that so we know You know, like I say, and this is like a minor drive-through, you know, because it's 2,000 square feet, a coffee shop, as opposed to a PDQ, like you said, or
Chick-fil-A, which
Right,
is,
exactly.
look at the North Lake one with the drive-through,
Right.
that is absolutely crazy.
So that's something we need to look at.
And that is not going to fit in a 2,000, which is why I appreciate the cap.
And the Wendy's is a problem, too, on North Lake Boulevard.
Well, maybe we need to have staff look at a, I don't know, do we have a Donald Ross overlay?
No.
No.
Maybe we should,
We only have one more property, which is Brigger.
yeah, Brigger, huh?
Well, we don't
I mean, really, if you're looking at any commercial opportunities, there is only one commercial parcel that has the opportunity to do that, and that happens to be currently controlled by Brock and North American Development Group on the Coulter piece.
Right.
So I'm sure that they're hearing these comments and taking them into consideration.
Okay, yeah, and I guess that's where my concern lies is in the drive. Personally, I think it's a great idea to move it from, you're providing parking where it's needed, versus parking where it's not needed. So personally, moving the building makes a whole lot of sense because I know where Mr. Zhang's over here is, and I'm pointing to the map, which nobody can see. But where Mr. Zhang's is, I know that the parking is difficult in that particular area because we frequent this shopping center too, and we've seen the difficulty that there is, and people will actually park way the heck over here where the proposed restaurant is, and then walk over to the west portion of the property, which is actually good for them, actually, if, parking is good for you. But I guess that's what I have a difficulty with, and maybe if we can, I guess drive-throughs are always a major conditional use, so they're always going to come in front of us
Yes.
to discuss.
Yes.
And if they work, they work. If they don't, they
Then
don't.
we
And the
can-
one on, you're referencing on North Lake, in my estimation, didn't work. And that's why
It didn't work either, and that's why I had such a difficulty with it, and I guess the reason why was because all of that traffic was going to end up going out onto MacArthur Boulevard.
Yeah.
It was right close to where the residents were. Don't you remember?
Yeah, this one is
in
not close.
proximity.
Yeah.
I mean, this would be like having this back in here.
Yeah, this is a
far
freaky
away from the
distance.
residents. That was the other thing there with that. The residents didn't want to hear the talking
noise.
on the thing and the noise.
In the past, before this shopping center was here, parents would drop their kids off on Military Trail instead of going into the pickup line because the way Dwyer is set up, there is not a lot of stacking, and stacking is a big issue. And the line, and the timing as school starts, we're talking 7 in the morning when the line, and it is, Military Trail is very busy, and I do understand the concerns because it is unsafe when parents do things like that. But we do need to address that.
You need to address it.
Now I'm glad it's brought to our attention. The parking, the stacking is necessary. I don't think our code actually takes into account reality versus because we have a lack of fast foods in our city. They are very popular, and so it's supply and
This is a
demand.
separate category for Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah, exactly, especially for Dunkin' Donuts. And there's a supply and demand, and there's not a lot of supply, so there's a big demand, and that's why the stacking needs to be increased, which I appreciate you doing. And in the past, or the last site plan, the stacking, if it went beyond 5 cars, it would block a lot of parking places, and that was my concern, and I appreciate you modifying the plan and addressing that issue.
Okay, well, we've got to make a decision, so let's come to a decision. I can tell you, I can...
Move the resolution.
With the additional...
Changing the start.
Changing the hours?
Changing the hours from 5 to 11.
5 to 11. Do I have a second?
Discussion real quick. If Chief, if you don't mind, I think we need to send a letter to Mike Mergio, the district school board commissioner, as well as the high school principal. I think we need to have some re-education, possibly, because obviously there's kids graduating every year. There's a different mix of kids coming in there, but I think we need to be proactively re-educating on staying out of that center and having these kids, for safety standpoint, dropped off at the school and wait in line or get there early. I think we need to get as many traffic drop-offs as we can out of this facility, so we need to be a little more proactive in that, I think.
Excuse me, I would have the mayor send that later.
Yeah, I'm just saying, I'm sorry, but I think that, the chief support as well.
Well, the chief should interact with the
Excuse me,
schools.
if you would allow us, staff will get together and come up with some approaches to be able to do that, and we'd be happy to approach it from a letter standpoint, but I think we'll probably attend the Dwyer High School and start with there, if that's
That'd be
okay
great.
with you.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
As long as
Thank
we
you.
get proactive and do that.
Well, it's a re-education process, because people are going to forget year to year, but I think it's important to let them know what's going on at the beginning of the school year to kind of stay out of that parcel.
This has been a problem at other schools in the city, and the police have handled, Chief, I'm correct, you've had experience in handling this particular issue because it's happened.
Yeah.
That's my discussion.
I've got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? None? Passes
The guy with
5-0.
the rules.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good evening. And Councilwoman Tinsley, Mr. Brock has agreed to make sure we clean up by CVS. That'll happen in the next week. Thank you.
Next is Resolution 17, 2015, appointment of regular members of the City Palm Beach Gardens Police Officers Pension Board. Clerk will read the title, please.
Resolution 17, 2015, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, approving the appointment of regular members to the City of Palm Beach Gardens Police Officers Pension Board, providing an effective date and for other purposes.
Okay, is there a staff presentation? No? Okay.
There was the gentleman, Manuel, was his last name, right?
There's
I don't have it here in front of me. John Manuel.
And I've got it written down here. Hang on.
Plus, there was a member that wanted to continue, right?
Yes. Brad Seidenstecker. Chair will entertain a motion for Resolution 17, putting Brad Seidenstecker's name in and John Manuel.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes 5-0. All right. Next, Resolution 21, 2015. Clerk will read the title, please.
Resolution 21, 2015, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, authorizing eminent domain proceedings to acquire a parcel of land designated as Parcel 1, as more particularly described herein, and generally located at 8511 40th Terrace North for the purpose of constructing and maintaining water utility improvements, declaring the acquisition of said Parcel 1 as necessary for public use and purpose, authorizing condemnation of Parcel 1, authorizing the institution of eminent domain proceedings, making findings, providing an effective date, and for other purposes.
Staff presentation.
Good evening, Council. Todd Engel, City Engineer. We have two resolutions on the books tonight, 21 and 22, that relative to the same subject. If you'd like me to present them both together, I'll do that, or we can do 21 and then wait on 22.
I think we can do both together, can't we?
Yeah, we'll
Let's
just
do
have,
both together.
after you vote on this, we'll just have the clerk read the title for 22.
Right, for 22. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, we good? Okay, Resolution 21 and 22 is an eminent domain proceeding for the improvements on Sunset Drive and 40th Terrace. Currently, right now, we're conducting a neighborhood improvement assessment program to construct new roadways in there and provide potable water for each of the residents within that area. To give you a little update of where we are with that project, the water main is about 95% installed. The blue areas represent where we'll be by the end of the week. We've connected on the north side of Sunset. We made a loop into behind Publix there to create the required water loop for that area. We've installed all the water main from the red area north on 40th Terrace and south all the way to Sunset, and by the end of the week we'll be at the end of Sunset. Next week we're going to begin clearing of the Palm Beach County right-of-way in the cul-de-sac area so we can complete the construction up into that point. Resolution 21, 2015 is a taking of land at 8511 40th Terrace North, which is located at the south end of 40th Terrace. And this area is required to make the water loop from 40th Terrace into the Palm Beach County Canal right-of-way, which we'll be tying the roadway into. So there's a picture of the subject parcel. This is a picture of the roadway. And if you look just beyond this oak tree, that section of land, 20 foot wide, and it runs 20 foot down to the canal right-of-way. There's a better picture of what's here. That's a 20 by 80 deed that the city's looking for, approximately 1,600 square feet. And again, it'll run from the portion of our cul-de-sac that we have. We've accepted that roadway from Palm Beach County, and it'll run into Palm Beach County's right-of-way where we currently have a permit to install that water main. This is the current proposed design for the roadway itself, or for the water main itself in blue. It comes down 40th Terrace, it crosses 40th Terrace, provides a water service for the last unit on the end, and then comes in and makes that water loop. And it was designed to be the least intrusive onto that property. It's all the way to the east of the property, adjacent to the sound wall. You'll hear an argument later on that the proposed alignment should go straight down 40th Terrace where it is instead of making that jog and going down. As you can see, we'd be under about 120 foot of pavement, which is not the ultimate solution to install a water main, because if we have a break in the future, we're going to be digging up 120 foot of cul-de-sac instead of just digging to the side of it and fixing that water main to the side. So that's the public purpose for the water loop on 8511 40th Terrace. Now we'll present Resolution 22, 2015, and that's a taking of land at 8342 Sunset Drive. That is located at the terminus of Sunset Drive all the way to the south. There's a dead end down at the end, and it just affects the east parcel at the southern end of Sunset. Sunset is a dead-end road, approximately 1,400 linear feet from 40th Terrace north. And currently we had a T-turnaround designed. The property owner at both Sunset and 40th Terrace asked us to look at the need to put the cul-de-sac on 40th Terrace. Maybe we can go to a T-turnaround, and we evaluated that need with fire, with police, with other officials, and with our waste provider, and they said absolutely not, that we could not put one at 40th Terrace. In fact, that there's a demand and a need to have a cul-de-sac at the end of Sunset Drive as well. Our code requires that any road longer than 120 feet have a cul-de-sac to turn around emergency vehicles, delivery vehicles, and waste management vehicles. That's our contractor, the waste management is our contractor. This is the proposed cul-de-sac that would be at the end of 40th Terrace, or at the end of Sunset Drive. It's approximately 4,650 square feet and will encroach only into one property and will not make any non-conforming properties because the structures are set back far enough where we will not encroach into any setbacks. I want to show you a quick slide or video we took out there. Both 40th Terrace and Sunset Drive, oops. Waste management has to back up down both of those roads. So they back up roads, one's 1,400 linear feet, and the other one's probably a little over 2,000 linear feet. It is their policy they cannot turn around in residential driveways, so they back down both of those roads. As well as our fire department, when they respond down there, wherever they respond to, they have to back all the way back out so they can get a suitable point to turn around. That's why our code requires any road bigger than 120 feet require a cul-de-sac. And that's what we're looking to put at the end of Sunset. Again, this is a highlighted area. This is the current roadway right-of-way that we own. Right in here, this is a 4,650 square feet. We would look to take the cul-de-sac. It does not produce a non-conforming lot because the house is set way back in there. There is an oak tree that you're going to hear expressions of saving that oak tree. It's important to look at our water design in yellow. Our water design is going to bisect two areas of that tree. It's going to come approximately 30 feet from the trunk. Seacoast Utilities requires a minimum of 20, but this tree is so big that it's going to interfere within that area. So we're going to cut roots on both the west side and the south side of that existing oak tree that's out there. And also we evaluated, could we possibly move that circle, that cul-de-sac, at a different location to see if we can help to save that tree. There's the current location of that tree. If we were to move that cul-de-sac completely out of the root line of that tree, so that root would not affect our infrastructure, only in a roadway because we still feel it may affect the water line, that's where it would have to go. And it would create a nonconformity with this lot on the northern side of the lot we are currently talking about here. The applicant owns, or the property owner both owns this lot, and these two on 40th Terrace. So he owns all those lots that would currently be affected in there. With that, I'll turn the presentation over to Max, and he'll give the legal side of the presentation, unless you have any other technical questions.
No? Max?
And you'll notice that what these resolutions are authorizing is they'd be authorizing the city manager, the city engineer, myself, to take whatever reasonable steps are necessary to move forward with the eminent domain proceedings. As Todd has already gone over, all the technical reasons why, with regard to the alignment and the design, these are all part of the criteria and the analysis that's done. And it's laid out for you and has been discussed in agenda review. Exhibit B to the resolution, we do a safety analysis. We've looked at we've looked at public safety with regard to the cul-de-sac and as well as safety of the infrastructure that we're proposing to construct. Also, cost. There's significant negative cost impacts to relocating that cul-de-sac because, as Todd already said to you, it would make non-conforming structures. It would make a non-conforming structure on one lot, which then increases the severance damages on the remaining parent parcel, or donor parcel, if you will. The same thing would happen on 40th as it on parcel 8511, because if we went straight through with the water line, there's a safety issue there with regard to our infrastructure. As Todd's already laid out, you have approximately 135-foot run of water line that would be under asphalt. Not to mention the fact that water line would be very, very close to an existing structure. We need to own the parcel because we need to then turn around and grant an easement to Seacoast when we turn over this water utility. We took just an easement, we can't then turn over an easement. The easement's specific to you. So that's problematic, not to mention the fact that it would create a non-conforming parcel immediately to the east if we took a 20-foot piece closer to that structure, as well as, again, you would have a water line through, bifurcating a property set rather than being at the extreme edge of the property, which is always the smartest place to put utility easements because it better protects your utilities from unintended damage. And it also, again, this would further increase severance damages to the parent parcel because we would be taking a piece right out of, well, not quite the middle, but certainly not out at the edge. So we went through the safety analysis as well as the cost analysis, which ties us also into alternative routes. We looked at different alternative means of routing the water line, and as Todd just demonstrated to you, relocating the cul-de-sac as it relates to Resolution 22, trying to see if there were alternative routes or alignments that would that would still maintain a sound design as well as not negatively impact cost and long-term planning. He also laid that out for you as it relates to the T design as opposed to the cul-de-sac. Our code requires the cul-de-sac, and the environmental impacts really kind of speak for themselves in that by doing this project and getting people on potable water, they're not going to be on those wells that are so dangerously close to their now existing septic systems. And that's the reason that we're recommending that you make this finding of necessity, that this is that the taking of this property is reasonably necessary to complete this project. Unfortunately, we've reached this point where we're here now having to prepare to do it this way rather than in a more amicable fashion. But this is what we need to do, and that's why we recommend approval of Resolution 21 and 22. The clerk hasn't had the opportunity to read the title for number 22 yet, so if you would indulge us to allow her to go ahead and read the title, and then we could have discussion or answer any questions you might have.
Resolution 22, 2015, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Palm Beach Gardens, Florida, authorizing eminent domain proceedings to acquire a parcel of land designated as Parcel 2, as more particularly described herein, and generally located at 8342 Sunset Drive for the purpose of constructing and maintaining roadway improvements, declaring the acquisition of said Parcel 2 as necessary for public use and purpose, authorizing condemnation of Parcel 2, authorizing the institution of eminent domain proceedings, making findings, providing an effective date, and for other purposes.
Okay. I do have 3 cards on this. First, Carol Courtney. Carol, name and address for the record.
Carol Courtney, 8511 40th Terrace North, Palm Beach Gardens, Florida. This is just, I know you all work very hard, and you do a good job for the most, in my book, for the most part. You're very conscientious about the environment and keeping the city green and all that. I just think it's kind of ironic. I know that the city was awarded from the Arbor Day Foundation for being a green, it's right here, 2011, and they're the ones I called when I told them about this tree. It's the one that you're saying has to get out of there in order for you to run water and to put the cul-de-sac in. It's been here for 250 years. 250 years. It's not growing any more roots at the surface or even anywhere near where the water line would have to go, or where you're planting it. You could still put the water line there and not have to worry about it, because it's not going to all of a sudden sprout a bunch of feeders that are going to do anything to the pipes. And I just think it's a shame. It really is. It's irreplaceable. We've had an arborist said he said it was priceless. A similar tree, just I guess it was the University of Michigan. They loved the tree so much they actually paid $400,000 to have it relocated. And it's a shame that we can't work something out without this going to eminent domain, because it's going to end up costing the residents of 40th Terrace and Sunset even more money, which they didn't know that this was going to happen. None of us knew this was going to happen because it wasn't really planned out very well. I mean, I think that we should have known that this was going to be a problem before we got to the end of the street and then just changed the plans. I'm sorry. I need a moment.
Okay.
Let's look at my notes. I even called the city forester. I talked to the state forester, which is Mark Torek, and I thought that he was going to be our city forester's boss, but apparently it doesn't work that way. But he just couldn't believe that we were destroying something so beautiful when there was another way of doing it. And when I got a hold of the city forester, Mark Hendrickson, which I think he should have been consulted in the first place too, and he was not. He told me that he knew very much about this project. Everybody knows about this project, because, and I know that Kevin's a thorn in your side, so he gets talked about a lot.
No.
He gets talked, I mean,
He's not a thorn in our side. He's accomplished something. Well, I'm sorry, I'll let you finish.
Well, at any rate, Mark Henderson said he had no idea that there was a 250-year-old oak at the end of the street, and I just don't understand why, through all this, that the city arborist wasn't even consulted. I just don't. There's got to be something that can be done without destroying what makes this city so special to so many people. I mean, if you look at the outside picture that you had up there, if you look, there's two canopies, and they're both on the end of the street. And if we keep destroying all these canopies, who are we? What gives us the right to take the life of that tree that's been there for longer than this country has existed, without really at least giving it a good fight to try to figure out if there's another way? Please, I beg of you.
Thank you, Carol. Michelle Ball.
Hello.
Hi.
Michelle Ball, 8511 40th Terrace North. For the past 6 years, I have wanted nothing but to have city water. I was so ecstatic when I knew that it was going to go through, and I thank you for that. But there has to be a better way. Kevin owns all the property, and I know he will work with you. He just doesn't want to lose the trees. And I don't personally understand the cul-de-sacs, because 40th Terrace has been a dirt road forever, and no one cared about it. The cul-de-sac that is being proposed, what you didn't see in those pictures, if this is our front door I'm standing at, the cul-de-sac is going to come to where the wall behind where you're sitting. It's that close to our front door. We have already had someone at the end of 40th Terrace had their house hit by a vehicle because they took a turn the wrong way and went into the house. and I really don't want a vehicle in my living room. So, please help us. Thank you.
Thank you. Kevin Easton.
Good evening, council members. I asked earlier if I could put some slides up here to show my redesign, and the city manager told me I had to ask the mayor first, that I'm not allowed to give a presentation without it. But I have a zip drive here, and I would like to show some pictures, and I would like to show my proposals to stop this eminent domain proceeding, or at least have you reconsider this, so that we can move on and not waste everybody's taxpayers' money. Now, I presented this before the council started, and I guess at the bottom of our thing it says all materials must be presented before the council meeting, and I tried to do that. So I'm asking for your permission first so that I can show my proposals.
Mr. Mayor, I think that's excellent, but did you give that to our staff first?
Yes, I did. I
not
tried
tonight, to our staff to evaluate that. Because you're going to present this to us, and they may be beautiful pictures, but maybe it don't work when you look at the engineering and so forth. That's really the question. I mean, I have no problem looking at that, but when I look at it, I'm going to ask our engineering department whether it's going to work, and they're going to tell me, I don't know, I just saw it. If you just saw it. I mean, I don't know if Todd, if we've seen anything
I think
and so
by
forth.
before, it means before the actual
Before
hearing.
not just prior to the meeting, but a day before, to let, at least a day before, to give the staff some ability to answer any of the concerns you might have, or evaluate the
I don't know.
proposals that you're
I'll tell you
making.
what I
So,
can do. I can
Kevin,
give
if you have, look,
I have 10 copies right here of my proposed plan, and again, this is, I thought we were going to do this one at a time, but we've jumped into this and we've taken both of them on here. So I have my first proposal, which is Resolution 21. I have 10 copies with what I can show you, all of you.
Well, that's,
I don't need this.
You know,
but
we're
I
not the experts here. They are. You can't just hand this to us at the last minute and expect us to evaluate it in any reasonable fashion. We need our staff to evaluate it and give us recommendations and ask and tell us whether or not it's worthwhile. Kevin, I'm going to give you the latitude of, because you filled out 2 cards, as long as you need for these presentations. I don't want to take your time. Go ahead.
Michelle, my roommate, mentioned the cul-de-sac proximity to my house. That is 25 to 30 feet. The end of the cul-de-sac, where that stick is less than 30 feet to the front door of my house. I don't think that's acceptable. And if I could show you the rest of these things here, you would probably understand why I'm concerned with this. Now, again, I didn't know that, and again, I didn't know that I couldn't present this. I talked to David the other night on the phone, and I said I would make this proposals, my new changes. He was trying to think of a good way of helping us all out. I have thought of a better way. It isn't running against the side of my house. It's to keep the pipe going in the same direction, but 45 it around the tree and leave the tree, okay? I've been trying to work with you, with everybody here, to make this the best neighborhood I possibly can. And at this point here, nobody seems to want to listen. We didn't go ask the Planning and Zoning Board if they had any good suggestions for this project in the beginning. We didn't run it by the Planning and Zoning Board. The answer was no, it wasn't needed. Well, again, I think that the more people that could have looked at this, the better it would have been. I think that if the city forester would have came down and looked at this area, I think we would have had a different idea. I think that the emails that I got, and again, they are attached to these right here, it shows that nobody responded to my meeting requests for the city forester, the fire department, the police chief, the code enforcement, rubbish guys. I asked to have a meeting on site because Tom Urich, who is Cheatham's vice president, came down and said, wow, look at how close that is to your house. Do they know that? Do they know that the cul-de-sac is 25 to 30 feet away from my house? The train just kept rolling, and it just kept rolling and rolling. According to this piece of paper that Max sent me here. It says that, and I have it right here. Excuse me, I can't get here we go. It says, let me find it here. Well, what it basically said is that this could not be done unless, we cannot proceed unless you sign over the properties, that this job will not go through, okay? And all of a sudden, the pipe's already run, everything's there, and nobody's wanted to talk to me about this, okay? Nobody set up the meeting, and I don't understand how we can even go right now, and you won't even look at these pictures, and it's common sense logic on how we can redesign this and make this work. But somebody spent all this money on the original design. When I went into the office to sign for the $6,000 in the original proposals that were easements, they pulled out this big piece of paper and says, we changed the plans. Well, they didn't tell the rest of the owners they didn't change the plans. I'm the only one that knew that they changed the plans. But when I started talking to the other owners said, we don't need a cul-de-sac down there at the end of the street. We don't want to pay for that cul-de-sac at the end of the street. It's never been there, and it doesn't need to be there. We'd rather have trees, okay? Honestly, I thought I could show this here. I really did think I could show this here. I mean, everybody else gets to show their stuff up here. I don't think Ken Tuma introduced
without
his.
that, Kevin, can I just say something? Without
Yes, sir.
that cul-de-sac, did you see that video? Without
sure did.
those cul-de-sacs, those trucks have to back all the way up.
They don't have to back up, sir. They
don't?
have been turning around a long time down there. They've been doing this since I moved down there, okay? And I called Waste Management, and the gentleman there had no idea that you guys were doing this.
We have a letter from Waste Management, and the letter states that it's necessary. Otherwise, they have to back up. You think that's an unsafe situation? Same with our fire department.
I think that I have tried to show how this T-turnarounds would work down there on my properties, and I would be willing to grant the easements to let these vehicles turn around on my property. And I just don't think that killing these trees, we're supposed to be the tree city. We're supposed to be a tree city. We're going to kill a 250-year-old oak tree. We're going to kill a 150-year-old oak tree, and we're going to kill a tree that looks just like that one that's right behind your heads. And I have pictures of these that I could show you. And yet, no, we're full bore ahead here, and nobody's wanted to schedule that meeting, and nobody put it in front of the planning and the zoning board, and nobody asked the rest of the neighbors down there if they agreed with this new design change. And I'm just lost, and I don't want to go to eminent domain. But at this point here, if we can't come to an agreement, you're not going to let me show the materials that I've brought here, like everybody else gets to show, then I guess
Kevin,
we
you
have a
keep on
problem.
saying that, okay? Everybody else gets to show it when we've seen it already. Now, let me ask you a question, okay? If you give us that and we take a look at it, and we have our engineers look at it, are you going to believe them if they come back and say that there's not a way to do it? I mean, I don't mind holding off on this eminent domain thing for a month, okay, to look at that plan. But I do have a problem if we were to hold off and then we come back to you and tell you why it can't be done, and you say, well, I'm still not going to sign off. I mean, you told our attorney that you were going to sign off, okay? And he recorded that conversation upon your approval. Now, I don't disagree, okay, as far as the trees. They're very, very, and if there's any way for us to save them, we should be saving them. I totally agree with that, okay? And I hate to lose those trees, but getting you water is more important, okay, than the trees. I mean, well, it's not that you don't want the water anymore.
You don't want the water.
You know, I don't understand.
Why did you start this process in the first place? I can't understand that.
Okay, let's just, okay.
Yes.
When I'm finished, I agree.
Todd,
Let
do
him
you
finish
think
this
this would
time,
work?
and then we'll do what we do. Okay. Okay, bring it back up here.
Yep.
If I might address a couple of things just briefly.
Not coming against my house.
There have been numerous, almost countless conversations between myself, Mr. Engel, and Mr. Easton, from Mr. Engel, of course, discussing the design issues with Mr. Easton, and me discussing the legal issues with Mr. Easton. We have had conversation after conversation after conversation. It comes back to the same thing. Doesn't believe our design, it needs to be this way, it needs to be that way. The code requires a cul-de-sac at the end of the street. No, there was not a cul-de-sac at the end of Sunset Drive when the city annexed it. And again, as everybody knows here, the city didn't own the road, no more than they owned the homes it annexed into the city. So you weren't in a position to take ownership from the county because it wasn't up to standard. We took possession of those roadways from the county as part of this project, as you all remember, to bring them up to code as best we could. That's where we're at right now. And as far as the proximity of the cul-de-sac to that one structure on 8511, that's very interesting because, see, that cul-de-sac was an easement before it was owned by the county. That was a right-of-way easement since that property was sold. It's actually indicated on your deed, sir, and you built a fence across that road and denied access to that easement and the existence of that cul-de-sac to your neighbors in that neighborhood at least since you've owned it. So the proximity of that house to the edge of that cul-de-sac was always there. That was a right-of-way easement, and that house, whether it was built in accordance with county setbacks or not, or its proximity, that was there, and that was there. It's even depicted and referenced on the legal description of the deed. All we're doing is we took possession of property that the county already owned and that he's enjoyed the use of, denying the public the use of it for how many years? So that argument really doesn't hold a lot of water. And as Mr. Russo did say, you and I had a very lengthy conversation on April 2nd. I recorded the conversation with your permission, the end of the conversation, wherein you agreed to execute the documents to move forward. And they were explained to you exactly as they were presented to you out on the street a couple of weeks ago to sign, in which you refused. And you don't want to accept it. And that's where we're at. I'm doing what the council has asked us to do. I brought it back for eminent domain so we can move on with the project, so you can get this in and get water to people. It is what it is. It's really up to the council to decide. You've heard your engineer. This is necessary to complete the project and to complete it in the most intelligently designed way, protecting the water infrastructure and the roadway.
I would like to address Mr. Lohman's comment about the fence. The fence was permitted by Palm Beach Gardens. I pulled a permit for that fence, okay? I paid money for that fence. If you approved it and it shouldn't have been approved, then I would have never put it up. That fence I put up, and I honestly think that this, what they called the courtesy maintenance agreement from the county, leaves something to have been desired, and I don't think that there really is a good easement down there, and I think somebody really needs to research that. And when we talked, I agreed to sign the papers thinking I was giving easements. When I looked at these things, you are taking Exhibit A.
No, sir, that is not true.
Yes.
I'm not going to get into an argument with you. I explained to you what we were going to be taking. I spent 2 hours on the phone with you. I was painfully clear.
Exactly.
I was painfully clear talking to you on what was going to be done. I did not pull any punches with you or surprise you.
We spoke
the fact
for
that you may not have
53
heard it
minutes
or listened
exactly.
to it, I told you clearly what we needed. I was very specific.
Okay. I think this discussion is over. Okay? It's over. I think we need to bring this back up here for a discussion and or a vote. Kevin, thank you for your comments. Other people, thank you for your comments. Right now, it's in our hands. Any comments?
I have a few comments, and ever since I've been a council person, I have heard about providing and asked about providing water to this neighborhood. I am getting stopped by people at my daughter's school from this neighborhood asking when they are going to complete this project. I've been told by residents there that the roads are torn up, and so I went by to see how bad they were. And they are. They're under construction, and people are getting tired of it. They are so excited about having water for the first time ever. And they are very, very excited about that. For 7 months, we've been trying to work out these issues with Mr. Easton. For over 7 months, we've been discussing this. I'm tired of discussing it. We need to move on and provide these people with the water we so promised. My yard is less than 30 feet in width. I believe many people in planned developments have that ample yardage before they have a roadway. And I think that's absolutely adequate. We've had a charrette, we've had public workshops showing the design, we've discussed the location of the water line in its entirety, where it was going, we discussed why and how it was going to be installed and why it had to be there in its location. Me and many other residents in Palm Beach Gardens, anybody that's in a planned development has their utility easement adjacent to the roadway. That's where it is everywhere in our city. And why would we change that location if it's not consistent, if it is not efficient, and if it's more costly? It makes no sense to relocate any utilities if it's going to cost those neighbors additional money. When it comes to the tree, I understand and I agree it is a gorgeous tree. The property owner has every right to, if it's on his property, to move the tree to a different location. We've had 3 years of discussing this project. If they want to go through that expense, I do not think that we should take the dollars associated with relocating that tree and assess the rest of the neighborhood for that one tree. I don't think that is prudent for this project. I also want to say that I do not think we should allow property owners to do engineering plans. I don't think that is adequate either. We have professional engineers that have looked at this for a long time, and I do not think that it is necessary to have a property owner that is not a registered engineer designing utilities. It does not make sense, and I don't want to be liable for that. So that's all I have to say.
Okay. Anybody else want to make any comments before we take a vote?
Yeah, I have one quick comment. One of my concerns about doing it tonight is that if we don't, you've got open trenches.
That's right.
Open trenches are a physical hazard, but the other thing is we're coming into the rainy season. And if we don't start finishing this project up soon, our costs are going to increase because...
Up soon. When's the earliest you're going to be able to get this?
Ideally, through a Chapter 74 proceeding, if Mr. Easton doesn't accept the initial written offer and we have to proceed with eminent domain, I'll be able to file a petition for it probably sometime at the end of this month. If things go well and I can get everything coordinated with the clerk of the court, I might be able to get a hearing as early as 45 days to 60 days after that.
My point, David.
Yeah, then after we get the hearing, we put the money, when we get the hearing, when I file a petition, we put the money that we offered Mr. Easton in the court's registry, and then at the hearing, we would actually get ownership of the property. And then there would be, you go through the proceedings as far as costs about the money. But
the longer you delay it, though, the more expensive it gets.
Yes, and if we have to go through the entirety of the eminent domain proceedings, conservatively, it's very possible that it could cost each one of the property owners there an additional $2,000 on their assessment.
This makes no sense.
And right now, just so you know, and Todd confirmed this today with the city manager and myself, even with the cost of acquiring the property as we have offered it to Mr. Easton, right now, we are still well within the contingency that was originally budgeted for in this project.
And Max, a real quick question. Should the city and Mr. Easton come to some type of agreement at some point, can we then take the property at that point and not go all the way through the hearing process and actually speed this thing up?
Yeah, well, if he agrees.
If he decides to agree to the funds or sign the quitclaim deeds, yes, sir.
Okay, so there's nothing that precludes him from continuing to talk to the city, while this procedure is going. So there's no reason not to do this.
Correct.
Okay. So he could actually give Todd his plans for evaluation while we're doing
that's
this.
the problem. I asked him. But the problem's going to be, David, is that no matter what we tell him, he's not going to believe us. And that's really the problem. I'd be happy to have Todd look at the plans, okay? As long as Mr. Easton would say is that if we come back and say we can't do it, and again, if we could, I want to see it done.
Yeah.
And let me just say this, if it can be done, and it's going to cost a little more, it's still going to wind up costing less than this other process. You know what I'm saying? So I don't, but Kevin, you have to make an effort to say that I'm going to, you know, we'll look at this for you, and I'm going to listen to whatever you say. And I'm telling staff that they need to try and make this work. And if it costs them a little more money, okay, but everything I've heard, it's just not going to work. Okay? You can't go in this direction. This is going to cost everybody, all your neighbors, a lot of money. Okay? We can't stop the process now because it's already started. Okay? It needs to get done. And I don't have a problem with asking Todd to look at it, but you have to have a problem, and this is where David was going. Okay? We do this, have him look at it in another week when we get back to you. If you don't buy into it, we're going to continue. But please, buy into it and sign the documents. You're going to save everybody a lot of money. I mean, makes no sense. I mean, I love Max, but I don't like paying attorneys for money that could be spent in other things, with all due respect.
And the people will get their water much sooner.
Much sooner.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Much sooner.
All right, I think we need, I
agree with that.
I think we need a vote, okay?
I move Resolution 21, 2015.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 5-0.
Move Resolution 22, 2015.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Okay.
But all I say is if Kevin's willing to come in and say and agree to, if once we look at it, I think we should do it. As long as he agrees that he'll sign the thing if it doesn't work.
I just wanted to clarify one thing, that there's two separate trees that we're talking about in the oak trees. The two are here, they're already in the city-owned right-of-way. Those trees fall under our right-of-way, so those are not in question about who has ownership of those. We do. The other tree is the older tree,
Yeah.
which is there, which is clearly on his property.
But the bottom line, Todd, is that if he's got a design, okay, that would cost us a little more money and save anybody's trees, wherever they are, we should be doing it. Okay? But, and again, now, if it costs us a little more, and as long as it costs us less than this proceeding is going to cost us, I'd be okay with it. But I don't think he's going to believe anything you say, and that's the problem. And if not, we got the thing going.
Okay.
So.
Okay, you got direction?
If you guys don't mind, I wish you the best. Thank you. I'm going to head out.
Yeah.
Okay. Good luck, Joe.
Good luck, Joe. Send her our love, will you? Okay, next we've got the discussion regarding citizen survey results. Do we want to go through this tonight? We could do this next month.
Let's do this next month.
That's fine.
Okay? The rest of the agenda, North County District Park, is that okay too?
Next month?
Yeah.
Next month, yeah.
That's fine.
Is that okay?
It's not, yeah, that's fine.
All right. There's nothing imminent here.
Does Bex want to talk more?
I thought I would read you a chapter from War and Peace. No?
No.
I don't have any reports.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Moving second, all in favor? Aye, we are adjourned. Thank you.